Hello all. Test test. Alright. Sweet. Looks like we're live. I'm just gonna send out the announcement. Alright. Alright. So yeah, I got home yesterday from the 2026 World Boardgame Championships. It's my favorite convention every year. They run tournaments in like 150 different games over the course of 9 days. So this started the tournaments themselves started Saturday. What was that? I looked it up. Saturday, July 25th, and the last events finished up yesterday, Sunday, August 2nd. There's not a ton of stuff on that last Sunday. We'll kind of cover that later, but it is 8 full days of gaming. I tend to wake up at I tend to wake up kind of early, but the gaming starts around 9 a.m. each day, and I tend to be playing games till almost 11 p.m. or a little after. Try to get back to the condo, get to sleep, and then wake up and do it again. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Double mic, by the way. Oh, hey. Okay, thanks. I do appreciate that. Weird. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, weird. Looks like one of them got turned on somewhere. Okay, thanks for that. I think it's good now. Um, but yeah, so just got back yesterday. Today did the whole work thing, and now just getting the retrospective up here. I had a great time as always. I absolutely adore this con. Anybody that loves just playing games, this is the best gaming convention for playing games. You don't even have to care really about tournaments, but just the fact that there's so many different events at every hour, and you can just wander in and play a game with people that know how to play the game, love the game. It's great. You don't have to worry about event tickets ahead of time or anything. You just show up, tell the GM you're there, you get signed in, and you get playing a game. I make so many friends at this convention. I have so many great friends at this con. Most of the reason to keep coming back year after year is to just catch up with everybody again and say hi. When you're at a con for 8 days straight with a lot of the same people and it's a bit of a smaller overall attendance, you just start to see the same people and you make connections. And it takes a certain type of nerd to want to go play board games for 15 hours a day, 8 days in a row. Not that everybody's actually gaming all of those hours. Some of us are, but anyhow, it takes a certain type of person to really want to go do that. And if that sounds like you're that type of person, you will find so many people to make friends with and you'll have a great time. So I highly recommend this event to anybody that thinks about it or is tempted by it. I will say the website kind of sucks. I'm currently on the website, but we are working on that also, so that it doesn't look like it's from the 90s anymore, but we'll get there. How was the drive back, you ask, Robbie? The drive back was fine. I mean, it takes a while. I took a nap, but it worked, so the website's going to be fixed. Yay, website. Yeah, exactly. We'll get to it a little bit later here in the retrospective, but they showed a preview of what the website's going to look like, and I mean, it certainly looks promising. I mean, again, making a website look nice is actually not that hard of a project. All the other stuff is the hard stuff. So hopefully we actually get there. And it's been a priority for a little bit here at least. But anyhow, the con itself, on the ground experience, unsurpassed. It's a great time. I'm basically gonna pull up a bunch of photos, talk through my week. I'm gonna hit a lot of the specifics about the games I played and my results. For those that watch this channel or know me, it's no secret that I go there kind of competing for the overall player award. I am attempting to someday win the console award, which there's this point system that you get for if you place in the top 6 in a game, you earn laurels, which are these like point system, and based on how big the event is, you get a multiplier. And basically every event that you place top 6 in, you get so many points for, and if you place in a lot of events, you get a lot of points, and whoever has the most overall points is console. In 2023 and 2025, I was third in the console race, so I have been close before. And I try to min-max my schedule and compete in a lot of events, trying to win that overall award because I find that fun. But this will not be the year. But We'll get there. The game within the game, exactly. I enjoy all the meta competitions. There's a silly team tournament side competition thing too that I like. Um, there are no actual like cash prizes at WBC, but there are plaques, and then yeah, a bunch of these fictional internet points called laurels, and that's the precise level of caring about the game that I enjoy. You know, you get stuff written up in an event report. You earn these silly little points. There's these fun side competitions, but truly none of it matters. Um, but it's good fun, and I enjoy it immensely. So, um, with that, I did make a schedule video. You can kind of see my schedule here. I've highlighted kind of what I actually did throughout the week. I wound up taking some diversions from what my schedule was supposed to be, but this year I did game pretty much all day, every day, which is not that shocking, but the schedule was very friendly to me this year in that it lined up very well with what I wanted to do. And it worked out really well. In previous years, there's sometimes slightly more gaps in things. At the end of 2025, I said that I really enjoyed like a couple of lunch buffets with some friends and that I should try to fit those in this next year. That did not happen. I gamed all the time, and I did not wind up actually like having lunch with friends ever. So that's a slight regret. Although, given that I was able to like put some games that I actually cared about in pretty much every slot, it's a tight balance for me. So anyhow, as I go through this video, I'm also gonna kind of try to be writing down my stats as I remind myself of everything I did. Um, but yeah, the overall summary of my results was I had a solid week for my lofty standards of trying to become console. The quick summary is that I'm likely somewhere in the teens this year, for overall top players. I will unlikely to be in the top 10, and I'm definitely not close to actually being the console. Um, but I still made a couple final tables. I laureled in a decent number, like a pretty good number of events, and I have a couple of kind of highlight results that I really enjoyed and feel good about. So yeah, honestly, a pretty nice week still, but yeah, not the type of crazy year I'm gonna require one of these years to actually get a console, but that's all good. So yeah, I'm gonna switch views here, and we're gonna cut over to my photos, and I'm gonna talk through my whole week in a lot more detail. So let's do that, and I might wind up at double mic again. So let's see if I can't make sure that's good. Okay, no double mic. We're good. All right, yeah, everything looks good. Okay. Great con, but you wish it wasn't so front loaded. It still feels like all the top events overlap in the first 3 days. Yeah. Um I kind of agree. Just looking at my schedule is also very packed early in the week, and later in the week this year, I still did wind up with enough things to be doing in most of the hours, but certainly by the very end of the week, once you get towards like Friday and Saturday, there's not that many options on most days. That's a little bit natural because as we run events, you have to run the semifinals after the heats, and so if you run in your heats on Friday, Saturday, where are your semis and finals going to wind up? But I do think there's still a little bit to be said for a handful more events moving a little bit later in the week. Um, but I suspect the front of the week is just going to continue to be pretty loaded over the years, and I don't know that there's a ton that can be done about that. Um, but yeah, you didn't have to learn Leaping Lemmings, so that's a plus. Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to go play Leaping Lemmings, but okay. As for our pictures, I start my con on Friday morning. Very early in the morning, I drop my partner off to the airport. He's off to go to some of our mutual friends. They're having a kind of a cruise wedding thing. I had made it clear that I was going to WBC. As much as I love those friends and enjoy hanging out with friends, I was not going to miss WBC. But so yeah, I dropped my partner off at the airport nice and early, and I was driving on my way to. I was driving by 3:30 on my way to Seven Springs, which is where the convention is located. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and yeah, it's like a 10-hour drive to get there. Plus, obviously, I actually take some breaks and stuff. So in effect, it tends to take me 11 to 12 hours usually. And yeah, I tend to leave stupidly early in the morning because at least I go through Chicago at like 5:30 or 6 a.m. in the morning, which tends to be early enough that there's at least a bit of light, but at least the interstate is moving and stuff instead of hitting standstill traffic, which sometimes happens if I try to go through Chicago at like 8 a.m. or whatever. So anyhow, it all goes pretty smoothly. I wind up at a Giant Eagle grocery store outside of Pittsburgh. This has kind of become a yearly tradition for me of picking up all my groceries for the week. There is food at the convention center, but again, as I say, I kind of game all day every day. So I tend to pack food in my backpack, just kind of having sandwiches and apples and dried fruit and other snacks with me, because if I didn't, I wouldn't eat during the day, and that would be bad. So, but yeah, I always take a selfie at the Giant Eagle because my partner growing up lived in the um, he lived a couple hours out, or like an hour or so outside of Pittsburgh, and Giant Eagle was their grocery chain growing up. So it's just kind of become a yearly tradition. I take my selfie at the Giant Eagle and send it over to him. So yeah, no pickups, just me. Yeah, it was just me this year. Last year I had a friend come with me. One of these years I really should figure out who else lives in Chicago or throughout the Midwest because it does feel rather silly. I'm driving the whole way by myself. I know another person that go lives in Madison and goes to the con, but truly I don't actually know how Matt got to the con. We didn't organize this year. We probably should have. So that part is definitely that part's an area I could optimize. Given that I optimize almost everything else about the week and the experience, the travel feels like one that I could work harder on. But I think I also just need to promote it a little more to some of my local friends. I think a few of them would enjoy going out for the week, but I don't always push it that hard. That's one aspect where like I think Shadow and some others have done so great at like growing the con. They really pitch it and promote it to people and convince them to show up and come with them. And so that may be something I should aim to do a bit more in future years. Hey, Heroic Logic, welcome to the chat. Um, but yeah, so anyhow, I got all my groceries. I think there's even a picture of my groceries, but whatever. Lots of sandwich stuff, a couple snacks, lots of Gatorades too. I basically grab a new Gatorade every day. Um, I also always am a little surprised to see Cider Boys cider in their beer area. Cider Boys is local to me. It's Stevens Point, Wisconsin. That's where I went to college. It's central Wisconsin. And so yeah, I'm always a little surprised to see my favorite cider brand out in Pennsylvania because yeah, again, it was like it is a good cider brand, but it's also just yeah, it was it was my college town. So anyhow, I always enjoy that. As for games, I arrive Friday evening and I start catching up with lots of friends. I find several friends about to play games, and I wind up in a five-player game of Last Will. I barely know how to play Last Will. I'm not good at Last Will, but it used to be a tournament game. A bunch of them enjoy it. I've started to see the appeal a bit through their eyes as they teach me a few bit of the strategy and what's going on, but I'm still pretty ambivalent about Last Will, but it doesn't really matter. I have a fun time. I play a fun, friendly game with friends. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I take last or close to last, but it's not shocking. It is so hard to understand how awesome the con is until one actually goes. I agree with that. It is hard, I think, to communicate like how enjoyable the overall con and experience is without going. And I do think like even this video recap that I'm doing, it doesn't really full like I focus a lot on just all the games and stuff I'm playing because that is kind of what I'm taking pictures of, and it's a little bit of easier to recap all of that. But so much of the week is just spending time and interacting with other people that I really enjoy spending time with, and that's also part of the real magic and loveliness of WBC. But it's harder to communicate just how many like friendships and relationships and stuff I've built up over the years that I really value from going in this type of recap. But like maybe that would be useful to just like one year just be like, yeah, I talked to blah 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 for this long each day, and I spent a bunch of time with that and all of that because like that happens constantly. I'm running into people in the hallways and talking and catching up, and even during the games, you start to run into the same people and you catch up and talk and banter, and it's so good, so good. Um, I also wind up then in a four-player Agricola game that evening. This is original edition. I wind up with a freaking perpetual student educator in original. Uh, for those who are less aware, for original edition, educator says anytime somebody else plays an occupation, you can pay 3 or 2 food to play an occupation. And then perpetual student says every time you play an occupation, you get 3 food, but you have to randomly play your occupation. So this combo is sick because it plays all of my occupations when other people play occupations without having to pay any food costs and even eventually netting some food. And so like the rest of my cards just come out for free. The problem is the rest of my cards are kind of mediocre to bad. Well, they're not bad, but like Boyer is pretty, or yeah, Boyer's pretty good. Good Friend's okay, but like a lot of them are not particularly good, and also they come out really late because my cards are kind of bad. Everybody's cards are kind of bad, so they don't really play that many Ox. Um, I put together a really fine, nice game, but yeah, it turns out I don't actually win this one. Somebody else gets me, which is a bit surprising because once the educator perp came down, the table was definitely rightly scared. But yeah, I just don't really have much plow or crop help. I don't really have much off board. So the efficiency of these ox is what I'm relying on in order to like make a really pretty farm, and the ox are actually just like not that efficient to get down for free, despite the fact they're coming down for free. I'm also like one of the cards that is pretty good is Manufacture, which lets me build guilds for cheaper. But by the time I actually get that renovation off, other people have already snapped some of the other guilds away from me. So yeah, but it was a fun time. Agricola's a great time. The rest of the night, I think I just spent catching up with friends and having a good time, and then trying to make sure to actually get to sleep. At WBC, I tend to struggle slightly to get to sleep because I just want to talk with all my condo mates and my friends. And the other problem is I tend to just naturally wake up early and excited, and it's hard for me to sleep in. So, anyhow, I tend not to sleep quite as much as I probably should or normally would. But anyhow, I tend to get enough. But who is that? Mark, Nathan, and somebody else? JP. I played with. I played with JP, I believe. This was Mark, JP, and Nathan. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's what this table was. Um, I admit some of it is already fuzzy in my head, right? There's so many games during the week, but and this one doesn't have a score sheet. I do tend to have score sheet pictures of almost everything else I play. I do miss taking pictures of some games throughout the week. So as we go through this, some of the things are going to be missing pictures, but that's fine. Um, but yeah, so Saturday morning the convention starts in earnest. Nah, steel trap up there. I remember a lot of stuff, but I don't think it's a steel trap anymore. I actually think I used to have it way more locked down when I was a bit younger. I do think not that I'm old or like that old by any means, but I definitely think mid 20s me was a bit sharper in various memory aspects. But anyhow, so the first heat on Saturday morning Saturday morning I wake up and we have breakfast with my condo crew, which is a nice time. We all catch up, we all hang out. They also save me from myself. Last year I played a 9 a.m. game of auction, or also known as collector or high bid. I would have done the same thing this year if I had wandered over to the convention center earlier, but I don't really need to be playing that game. And so yeah, the Amon Ray Heat start at 10, and yeah, I hang out. I actually hang out with friends in the morning, and I guess this is the one gaming hour for the week where I can say I hung out with friends rather than going to go play a random game. But Amon Ray at 10. This Amon Ray game goes quite well for me. The I think I'm pretty good in Amon Ray games where the sacrifice levels stay low. And this is an Amon Ray game where I just steal a lot and I just have a really good money advantage. I bid for provinces that make money income or camels, and I have to tend to pay like 6 to get them over the like bare bones $0 bid farmer provinces. But if the sacrifice levels stay low and I'm winning those for 6, I tend to think I'm pretty ahead. And indeed, that's kind of what happens. I just have a lot of money going into the second half. I have a clear money advantage. I'm able to use that money advantage in the second half to just buy a bunch of pyramids. I like score a power card or two. I get decent temple value points even. And then at the end of the game, I think I have the most money left still too. It's like a big win. Yeah, 46 points to 32, 30, 30, 28. So just like low 30s, like a scrappy game for everybody else. And I just was like quite ahead. Only 9 points in the first half too. Like it wasn't like I scored particularly well first half, but yeah, the second half I think I just scored like I think I scored like a couple temples plus like yeah 6 pyramids for more than six, probably like 8 pyramids. It was probably two sets, most on one side, a bunch of pyramids, some temples, and most money. Like it was everything. So it was pretty sick. Decent table too. Yeah, no, like it was solid opponents. I mean, all the Amon Ray tables are solid nowadays for what it's worth. I don't think there's particularly easy tables, but yeah, whatever combo, I think turn order was good for me here, and I think my opponents just weren't able to leverage the farmer provinces particularly well or get the collective sacrifice to go very high, and I think that led to a pretty smooth win. With all that said, I think I need more practice in Amon Ray on how to leverage farmer provinces and how to win with them, because I think the very best players know how to do that, and as we'll see as we get later in the week, this table goes very well for me, and my bids are very good or work out very well here, but I do tend to struggle at the higher skill tables. So up next, I play a Heat of Cascadia. I don't particularly care about Cascadia. Um, it's an interesting enough stuff. We have the foxes that want pairs of other animals next to them. If you can set those foxes up, you score a lot because, for example, I have this fox and this fox are each scoring 7 points, and these foxes are each scoring 5 point or maybe not 5 points, or maybe this one does score five by the end. I don't remember. Anyhow, I think I leverage those foxes the best, but everybody else is doing very good stuff. This Cascadia table is wildly close. Um, two sad foxes. Yeah, there's some sad foxes, but anyhow, speaking of wildly close, I win the game 105 to 104 to 103 to 102. So yeah, that was that was wild. But yeah, I do get the win here, so we're off to a strong start with 2 heat wins and 2 tries. But I don't wind up playing any more Cascadia for the week. Um, I didn't really assume this heat would matter, but it gave me an option later in the week that I didn't actually follow through on, which is fine because I don't think I actually have, like I say, particularly meaningful Cascadia skills. Isn't that just Cascadia though? Always super close. I mean, yes, Cascadia does tend to be quite close because that's just how. I just don't think it's often literally 1 point. I don't think it's literally 1 point for each of the positions. Also, like pretty high scoring table. Like I don't think everybody always is scoring 100 plus either. But the seat order equaled the finish order. Yeah, it turns out in this case it did. I'm pretty unconvinced that seat order actually matters a hell of a lot in Cascadia, but who knows? Anyhow, Great Western Heat is up next. This Great Western game is a little fuzzy in my head. People were doing fine things in this Great Western game. I remember that. Everything was like scrappy. I did get builders, I got okay taxes, and then I think I wound up being a cowboy because it seems like I'm just sort of always a cowboy at WBC because other people correctly know that they're supposed to press builders or even try to do engineer things. But I do think I'm better at doing cows than most players. It looks like I set up in the swamp nicely with the hazard remover. I do think setting up in the swamp is kind of really good for cowboys if the cow shuffler's not in the game because you're able to discard your cows for certificates. So it helps you cycle your hand and it gets you certificates for the deliveries. The more I look at this, I do remember a few things. I have my tax in a good spot. There was a lot of early cooperative train movement, so even though I'm a cowboy player, my trains passed a lot of the delivery fees too, which really helps me with my money flow for the game. And yeah, I wind up with like I also wind up with the hazard station master in a game where we have the hazard removal. So by the end of the game, I wind up having a lot of hazards. I wind up having like here's the end of the game. I wind up having five hazards with the hazard station master. I wind up with max cowboys. I wind up with solid cows. It looks like they're cut off here. I just have really good money. And anyhow, it leads to here we go. Here's pretty solid cow points. Only one purple cow. Not incredible cows, to be honest. But yeah, great, pretty good objective game to score 11 in objectives. Just an insane pile of money. Just basically, hits everything. I hit good deliveries, too. I'm pretty sure I end the game. Oh, wow, I even ended with a New York delivery. I had time for a New York delivery. So yeah, anyhow, pretty sick cowboy game. And yeah, even that second builder I had earlier became one of these station masters. So it was a pretty smooth win, but my opponents are doing fine enough things. It's not like it was a huge blowout there at 89 and 86, but just a nice 114-point win. Game goes a little long is generally what that means. If you're scoring 114, the other players probably should have been moving a little faster. Um, but yeah, so a nice Great Western win. Next up is Agricola Heat 1. Agricola Heat 1, the other strongest players right in front of me, although my left-hand opponent is solid. I have a nice enough draft with House Artist, House Steward, and a Wholesaler is kind of nice to like catch up on a big family. Grain Depot is a really good card too, and Slurry is obviously sick. But my Slurry takes quite a while to set up. I don't wind up having a ton of time to plow, and the player in front of me is plowing pretty aggressively. And anyhow, I wind up losing this table by 2 points. Eric does score 50. I was 4th seat, and I score 48. Eric has a really cool storeroom game with just a ton of crops, and he gets a late. He round 13, I think, start players into round 14 plow so with storeroom. So yeah, we wind up taking a second here. Can't feel too bad about that, but that is the first heat I've lost of Agricola in a couple of years, which is frankly mostly a lot of lucky seat pulls and stuff. So it wasn't shocking to have finally struggled a little, but it was a slight bummer. The next Agricola heat, my friends took a couple candids of me during this day. I announced that I was running for the BPA board of directors this year, and I made it known that I plan to try to become one of the board members for next year. So I began collecting signatures and stuff. But yeah, a couple of my friends were wondering what I was up to and took pictures of me. So anyhow, I threw some of those in here. But this is a good time to mention that if I wasn't able to directly talk to any of you this week, I am running for the BPA board of directors. I'd love any members to consider voting for me next year. I'd appreciate your consideration. If you need more details or you need to be reminded how to vote, reach out to me / I will probably be making it plenty more obvious once it comes around, including with more videos on my channel. But the elections aren't till like next April or in May. But anybody that goes to WBC is a member of the BPA and can vote. And anyhow, yeah, I was collecting emails and stuff throughout the week to help be able to remind people. So this is me setting up for Agricola, probably Agricola Heat 2, but maybe Agricola Heat 1. Who knows what the timing is? But anyhow, it's you. It is you. Robbie is signing up on my sheet, so thank you. But yeah, Agricola Heat 2. So Agricola Heat 2, I wind up my second pick. I don't quite remember how this draft goes. I think I first pick Omni Farmer, and I pass an Excavator. Then I pick a Pioneer out of pack 2, and then out of pack 3, I have to decide to block an Animal Catcher Day Laborer card or to take the Pet Lover myself. Pet Lover Pioneer seems too fun to not go for, because like that's pretty legit. Pioneer already wants you to take the single pig and the single cow when they flip, and the Pet Lover also does. So they work together really nicely. The Omni Farmer is also relatively happy with a little bit of help on the animals and crop game. But I am passing an Animal Catcher to an Excavator, which is a little spooky. I decide I'm fine with it because passing Animal Catcher doesn't really help Excavator that hard, because like by the time you play the Animal Catcher and get a hearth early, you're still not netting that much food off Day Labor, so the Animal Catcher is mostly good late. But the Excavator is not that impressive late. So anyhow, I wind up not being that afraid of that combo, and I just am like, I think my combo is good enough to compete with that combo. I think fundamentally this is correct. I don't think this is wrong. I don't think it's a wrong draft pick. However, I wind up with a perfectly nice game here. I have a 7-point Omni Farmer. I have a really pretty farm. I think I wind up scoring about 50. I'll have to look. I mean, it's a 3-room game. I plow a bunch manually. I have okay crops. I have solid enough food for the game with the Pet Lover. I have a firewood and a ceilings from the miners, so like I have tons of wood help, which is like sweet. which is why I wind up with max stables and pastures. But as you can all tell, there's a but coming. Um, my opponent first picks a hardware store in his minor pack. So hardware store excavator with a late animal catcher is completely degenerate. Um, this game had infinite wood, like everybody had wood injection, including again excavator hardware store. People did not take 3 wood actions this game. People barely even took 4 wood actions this game. Like people just basically waited for 6 wood cuz like there was just that much wood. This game was so degenerate because like I'm a pet lover, so I'm adding animals. There's this animal catcher adding animals. So yeah, there's like infinite wood, there's like infinite animals, there's like infinite food. People do race for the majors pretty quickly, which makes sense. It's why I actually push for a 7-point Omni Farmer, because like we're all just chasing points. But anyhow, yeah, Steve winds up just crushing this table because Hardware Store Excavator Animal Catcher is completely degenerate and indeed just wins. Uh, this was actually not a very fun Agricola game. I really hate Agricola games that become this degen. Like people not even needed to take 3 wood as an action. Uh, just makes the game kind of broken. And yeah, it was dumb. But so yeah, I take another second place. Whoops, apparently I don't have a score sheet of this game. But you feel like you remember it being high 40s for me? That could be. Also, it says that I'm connected to chat. Am I? Oh no, it must have just been temporarily gone. But yeah, it's possible I scored high 40s. Yeah, apparently I don't have a picture of that score sheet, which is how frustrated I was with this game. So anyhow, that's another second place, and that's the end of day 1 for me. I do wind up picking up that Beyond the Sun plaque. I won the online Beyond the Sun event last year, and anyhow, apparently this is just where that picture came in. I must have picked. I got this during registration and just took a picture at the end of the day. But yeah, so it was sweet to win the online event, and this is actually oddly my first online win. I have tons of like seconds and thirds and crap over the years, but somehow I've just never quite won an online event. I remember infamously losing a Navigador final because the final like colony flip was the lowest or some crap, and I needed it to be better or this and that. But anyhow, so day 1, I got 3 heat wins and stuff that was nice. But I have 2 second places in Agricola, so I need a win the next day in order to advance. The next morning, I pull a pretty strong table with Mark and Sam Wolf and Dan Adams. I believe all 3 of them made the semifinals this year. At the very least, they've all played in the semifinals. No, Dan didn't make the semis this year. He was 17th. But anyhow, they've all played in the semis in the past. They're all pretty good players. I do wind up with the best hand though. So I have a sweet recreational carpenter with a pavior. I have a sculpture course with the pavior. So my food is really good. And I have a wood slide hammer. I don't have any room discounters, so that's a little bit sketch, but wood slide hammer is so efficient, and rec carpenter at least makes sure that I don't have to take the extra build actions. So I'm pretty cool with this. I have a trellis, so it's harder for me to get fence blocked also. However, you will notice that this looks like an endgame picture, and I'm still in a wooden house, with a reed and 3 stone on my board. So you could probably work out what that means. And indeed, yes, I get Reno blocked. I get brutally, monstrously Reno blocked. My wood slide hammer came down a little late. That's a little bit on me and a little bit on the game breaking away from me in ways I did not expect. First action of round 12, I decide that I need to take wood. I look over at Sam Wolf's board. It looks like to me he needs wood. It looks like others need wood. And I'm like, I need some wood for fences. I can't win this game without scoring a bit better. I don't bother actually adding up everybody's scores, so I assume I need to stretch just a little. And it's not stretching that hard. It's like the first action around 12. I'm going to take wood, and then I'm like, I will just play this wood slide hammer on the wheel on start player. Well, the opponent right after me takes start player at the start of round 12. And so I'm like, fine, I will first action SP in round 13. Except Sam Wolf, the player diagonal to me, winds up starting first action in 13, skipping grow or plow sow or whatever, because he also is like, I need to start and get in there. I major minor the wood slide hammer, beginning to see how awful this could all of a sudden go. And yeah, the player after me decides to renovate. Round 14 opens Reno Reno. none of that had to happen because the player after me has a bassinet, so they're going to be able to copy a Reno action because Sam is clearly telegraphing he's opening Reno fence. So like the bassinet player could have decided to just last action Reno in round 14, but instead they decided to Reno now. Also, they have Basket Maker's Pottery, so renovated to clay doesn't even seem that good for them, but they do it. So, yeah, I get Reno blocked, and I wind up taking a third place. It turns out, in hindsight, I did not have to stretch and take the wood. I could have just started in round 12 with the wood slide hammer, because indeed I would have been far enough ahead. You can see that if I renovate, I'm at 49. So I could have thrown away like I mean it's another seat 4 game, by the way. I am going to complain about that in just a sec, but it turns out I could have thrown away some points. I could have thrown away some points. I didn't need to stretch for the wood. Like, my other opponents didn't have strong enough games going that I could have just been super safe, and I should have been super safe. But without live scoring, I thought I had to stretch a little bit. And admittedly, like, so many things had to go wrong from the start of round 12 through the end of the game for me to not win this game. But they all happened, and I wind up with third, and I wind up not even advancing to the Agricola semifinals for the first times in years. So my title defense of my Agricola shield has ended. Let me complain about 4-seat very briefly here, though, also. Again, fully in 4-seat's just part of the tournament, whatever. Normally it doesn't matter a lot. But in this game, as you can see, I am rocking a Stone Buyer in round 1 with a Sculpture Course, because Sculpture Course is excellent with the whole Stone Buyer thing. It's a sweet little combo. It makes the Paviour turn on. So I open Stone Buyer, and I'm expecting to wheel single grain, because when do you not wheel single grain? But I don't even get single grain in round 1 from 4th seat. I get blocked on single grain, so I have to single grain in round 2 in order to play Sculpture Course round 3, which obviously is just like slowly hurting some of my efficiency. There's like nothing good for me to do in round 1. I don't remember what I do. Do I even get Plow? I probably Plow. Plow's not that bad, actually, but anyhow, it's not what I want to be doing in that seat. I want to be taking single grain so I can freaking start the Sculpture Course in round 2 and get the food going. But I'm not even allowed to do that, so I have to pay a little 4-seat tax here too on top of everything. So just a frustrating run of Agricola games. Honestly, game one was like everybody played pretty whatever, like pretty equally. I don't think I actually got that punished in that game. But yeah, the freaking spiking hardware store turning into a degenerate combo, like whatever. And then yeah, this one being 4-seat coupled with getting Reno blocked kind of unexpectedly. It was a bummer. It was unfortunate, but I feel like I maintained a pretty positive attitude actually through it all, so that was good. I didn't let this like put me completely on tilt or anything, which I think I somewhat would have in the past. But yeah, it was a bummer way to end the Agricola for me this year, but again, the field is honestly so stupidly good. I have been quite stupidly lucky the last several years, and now I kind of got all of my bad luck all at once. And frankly, if that's how it's gonna go, it's probably better for me to have like a bunch of bad game, like all my bad luck catch up to me in one year and clear the But yeah, so this was sad. But anyhow, Sam said he was seat 4 every heat. You can't trust that kid. Yeah, he's definitely lied. I did keep it cool. Can confirm. Yeah, hey, thanks. Um, I truly, it helps that I won last year, because that also makes it a little easier to be like, okay, no, I've proven the last several years that I was 4th, 2nd, 1st overall. Like, I can clearly play Agricola well. I know I can play Agricola well. I've been living in like the top 20 on BGA over the last couple months. But yeah, turns out the field is strong. Any 3 heats can go any direction. Slash, this game I did mildly throw. I don't like, again, I don't super blame myself for not realizing that I could play it ultra safe and just first action SP in 12 just to make sure nothing bad happens. But I blame myself a little, because like if I want to be the best, I have to just realize that. But there are also so many worlds where Dan doesn't SP in round 12 and it wheels to me and I'm fine. There are worlds where Sam doesn't need to first action SP in 13 and it's fine. There are worlds where somebody just renovates in round 12 and gets it out of the or like renovates in round 11 or whatever and gets it out of the way, but instead like so many people are just sitting on rental parts forever. So uh again, just, kind of the vagaries of it's not that often that I get punished in that game anyhow, but it turns out this was the world where I do get punished. So Definitely was a bummer because I was expecting to do well at Agricola, and I was expecting to play the Agricola semifinals, but obviously that's not going to be the case. So, but we move on. We soldier on because that's WBC, and there's lots of other games and lots of other opportunities. I wound up playing a five tribes heat. This is the only heat of five tribes I can play, and the semifinals conflict with Arc Nova. So this is mostly just a for funsy game. I wind up with a bit of a set and a couple of Viziers, but my main thing this game was just doing lots of. I did lots of loops and put out lots of camels, and I did some decent stuff with builders because there was a huge blue area. So the blues were very valuable in the kind of center of the board, and pitching some fakirs for extra money too. So I wind up with okay money. It's actually not that much money, but I wind up with great camel points too, and just a really smooth overall win at a five tribes table, which is nice because I could not catch a five tribes heat win last year, uh, but yeah, it turns out that I was 17th on the list for the semifinal, and they did let the 18th player play. But yeah, this is the end of my five tribes run. The semis conflicted with Arc Nova, and I was committed to Arc Nova. Wow, now you know what Five Tribes looks like? Yeah, Five Tribes is a sweet game. You should try it someday. Apparently I have double score sheet picks in here. The next heat is an Arc Nova heat. This first heat, my opponents are actually like pretty good. I think there was a couple lessons I learned from Arc Nova this year. The field is a bit better than I was expecting, in that there are plenty of like 200 and 300 level type players, and I wind up seeded with several of them. To be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if one of the players at my table was actually more like a 400 or 500, because the player to my left was playing pretty dang good, to be honest, or pretty well, whatever I want to say. But I wound up getting the outdoor areas map this heat. I had a sick opening with playing Zoo School over the rep on the map and taking 2 rep university to get to 5 rep, and that allowed me to upgrade sponsors, which allowed me to play a pretty early explorer. I also play a very early polar bear exhibit, and that early polar bear exhibit is like 12 points for the game or something, because quite a few bears get played this game, including I wind up playing like a sloth bear and red panda and some other stuff. I wind up getting to do the Preds project too, so the Preds tag off this thing was sick. It is a birds game, and I wind up with a barred owl hunt, although I actually don't find that many birds, so that part didn't come to fruition. But yeah, the hyper efficient explorer polar bear exhibit and that like fast rush out of upgraded to get a fast early upgrade, coupled with outdoor areas just giving me lots of good enclosure spaces that I could exploit, and then some really nice release projects. I do wind up getting the win here. Here's a full pick of everything by the end. Oh, this expert on Australia was actually pretty sick too. Because I wind up having like my last action of the game winds up being Dugong plus Lynx. Europe was one of the base projects, so this Lynx was just a full 10 points. The Dugong is 9 points plus the green conservation point. Plus I could pouch 2 more cards off Dugong. Plus I think it hit an explorer tag at that point because I had no herbivores anymore because I'd released the earlier ones. So yeah. Oh, also I hit this hyper efficient lion off the deck. With the polar bear exhibit and the Preds I already have, this lion I just got to play off of the row for pretty cheap and just a crap ton of appeal. So yeah, I just had tons of appeal, a decent amount of projects, but not even that many projects. But just 3 project game, right? Yeah, 1, 2, 3 project game, but just crap tons of appeal. And yeah, I cross and get a smooth win. I mean, 25-point win it turns out, but like my opponent, like these 2 opponents were playing pretty well. But yeah, was this base game five tribes or with expansions? This base game. You got outdoor areas in the first seat in the game, and then board fill team. Nice. Yeah, I picked outdoor areas third. Fourth player took ice cream, both of which make sense. But yeah, most games at WBC are played base because WBC relies on players bringing their own copies. So most stuff is played base. So but yeah, so I get the Arc Nova win. That feels good. That was validated after, again, all the work I had put in. Getting the Arc Nova win was nice.
I play Heat of Stone Age next. We pause mid game to take this picture. I buy this card and I roll this dice bar for the community rewards, which is just everybody gets a farm early in the game. This is not the dream when you're rolling, but it is the dream for whoever was in whoever was getting fourth pick off this card. So everybody just got a farm, which led the game to definitely be a bit more high scoring and smooth. But so that was pretty crazy. But as for this Stone Age game itself, I wind up with just a crap ton of farm multipliers and a bunch of farms. I wind up just buying some other efficient cards. Basically, I think some of the players are a little too focused in this game about making their culture cards. And culture cards are okay if you get them cheap, but if you're like rushing too hard for them and you're letting other players just get all of these really good double multipliers, um, yeah, you're gonna lose, and indeed, these players wind up losing. I also wind up with really efficient huts. This is one aspect of Stone Age that I think some people are not as good at, but like these huts that let you just convert more resources are obviously just better because it takes only one action to convert 5 resources instead of having to take like 2 actions to convert the resources. So I think most people, I guess, do realize that, but I don't know. Players seem to not take enough of these efficient huts in my estimation. See, I wind up with a pretty big win. Okay, actually, my score is cut off here on the score sheet, but I'm pretty sure I scored like 150. Uh, so yeah, I was 4 seats. That was a little spooky, but anyhow, yeah, this was a nice Stone Age win, so that was good. So again, while at this point of the con, while the Agricola heats went poorly, every other game I've been winning, so that was kind of cool. I wind up playing a Through the Ages heat during the Agricola semifinals. I didn't a plan to play Through the Ages this year, but because I didn't make the Agricola semis, I could go play Through the Ages. The Through the Ages game was 3 player and it was super scrappy. None of us were able to do things particularly efficiently, and we were all pressing military, keeping the scores really low. Going into the final impact scoring, I had like 30 to 40 points after I slightly warned somebody. I think the leader had only like 50 or 60 points, and we only had like 4 or 5 impacts seeded. So I was assuming I was going to lose, but we watched all the impacts roll in, and because one of the players had to tear down most of their civ in order to defend my war, their impacts were really bad. And my impacts were okay, and it turns out I get a 1 point win, but this is a wildly close, well played table. It was very fun, very interesting, but I wind up winning and qualifying for the Through the Ages semifinal. So I had not played Through the Ages at WBC since I think 2022, or I might have played a Heat in 23 and not advanced. But so anyhow, while I did not make the Agricola semifinal, I unexpectedly made the Through the Ages semifinal. So that was kind of a cool result early in the week. That felt kind of cool. It felt kind of cool to basically realize that because I've put in so much work across so many games over the years, that even when like one of my core games like Agricola doesn't go my way, I all of a sudden am backdooring my way into other semifinals and other opportunities to score laurels. Um, After 2 days, this means that I won every non-Agricola heat over the first 2 days. So that was also kind of cool. I had just been off to a hot start of winning every heat except Agricola. And if I had to pick to like win all my games except Agricola, or pick like qualify for Agricola but have a lot of have a bunch of other like second places and be shakier and advancing across like 3 events, it probably is better for me to have concentrated them all into one game. So anyhow, WBC was off to a nice start, but heat wins do not make for laurels. They just give you opportunities in the semis. So the next morning is the Through the Ages semifinals. I wind up at a very good table with my friends Randy and AJ. AJ is definitely who taught me how to play Through the Ages well. Um, you'll note that I'm playing on my laptop. This is the other silly part of playing Through the Ages of WBC. Very few people opt to play physical copies anymore, and it makes sense. The app is so smooth Through the Ages, and Through the Ages is such a bookkeepy, like keeping track of game state game. It's so preferable to just have the app do it. but it definitely looks silly when you walk into a room and there's three people just sitting around the table and it looks like they're on their phones, but we're actively playing a game and talking about the game with each other. So there's not that many Through the Ages players at WBC anymore. I kind of think this might be Through the Ages last year, just based on the attendance. I think people are mildly resigned to the fact that that might be true because even the fans of the game are starting to accept that like it's just not that well attended anymore, and there is some inherent silliness of playing a game over the app. But it was very fun. I gave myself chances in this game, but AJ is literally the world champion at this game. Like not even that doesn't look like a Through the Ages score. That doesn't really look like a Through the Ages score, no. But you can play Through the Ages a very kind of cooperative and build up game, or you can play Through the Ages a very heavy military game and not let anybody score points. So all of us played Through the Ages pretty militaristically that first game. Anyhow, it's coming along. AJ, my friend AJ, literally won the recent online world championship. The world championship that is like you play 2-player games, 3-player games, 4-player games. You play like 9 to 11 games in a pod over the course of a month or two, and they play. You know, if you win your round, you advance to the next round, and they play like 8 rounds. This is like a year-long tournament of like literally like dozens of games to determine the best overall player, and AJ won last year. And my friend Galen, who I also practiced with a crap ton during the pandemic, got second. So I had excellent training partners throughout the pandemic, and I got solid, but they were always better than me, and indeed AJ is still better than me. In the post game, AJ pointed out a couple of things that he thought I did wrong or should have done differently, and I do agree, he's right, unsurprisingly. But I still gave myself shots to win this game. However, early in age 3, Albert Einstein and Air Forces flipped for me, and I snapped both of them, and I feel solid. But then Coubertin flips immediately for AJ, which is a bummer. And then I also just don't like. I don't currently have a great tactic, and I also don't have a war in hand yet. If I had a war in hand, I could probably be pushing the military, but without it in hand, I'm like, I kind of gotta fight culture. But AJ just has a better way to build culture than I do, so I guess I had to just build military, hoping to find a war, because that's the winning line. But suffice to say, I don't do any of that, and AJ does wind up with a pretty dang large win. But I do sneak second over Randy, which is kind of what Randy and I started to play for toward the end. It's possible Randy was supposed to start fighting for second place even sooner, but he didn't. So AJ winds up with a huge win. But because they're only playing three-player tables in the semifinals, I do wind up with the worst second place, but the worst second place is still 6th overall. So yes, I walk away with some Through the Ages laurels, but it's probably literally 2 laurels, and my goal is to get like 150 laurels. So we are not on the path to console by any means yet, but it was a nice result to suddenly be picking up some Through the Ages laurels this week that I did not in any way expect. And I still have some Through the Ages skill in me, but I would need to practice a bit more to get back to a level where I felt somewhat more competitive with AJ. So anyhow, you remember watching Weidenbaum or something like that on YouTube? He won a lot. Yeah, Weidenbaum is very good. He's one of the top players. This looks more like a Through the Ages score. Yeah, correct. First laurels of the week. It was my first laurels of the week. So I don't wind up getting more laurels. I do not wind up getting more laurels this week for quite a few days. So we have a lot of games to cover before I start scoring laurels again. Uh, so I should probably be speeding up this stream a little too, shouldn't I? We're almost an hour. We're almost an hour in. I was trying to make it a 2-hour stream roughly, so no, we're fine. I'll keep going around this pace. The next heat is a Vegas Showdown heat. I like Vegas Showdown quite a bit. I wind up at a pretty solid table, although all the Vegas Showdown tables are pretty solid. Um, the main awkwardness in this turns out that I thought Alex was a little more experienced at Vegas Showdown than he is, and he does not have the prereq chart memorized like I thought he did. He winds up making a bid on a 5-star steakhouse that I thought I was gonna win, and I thought I should have just spoken up and like just reminded him of the rule that he needed a fancy restaurant to place the 5-star steakhouse. But because the 5-star steakhouse was kind of going to be mine, it felt a little self-serving to like bring it up. And I was sort of hoping one of the other players would like bring it up because I assumed they also noted that this was a weird bid and like Anyhow, nobody brings it up. It makes Alex kind of annoyed, and to be honest, kind of rightly so. If he's not as experienced with the game, the heats at WBC are supposed to be pretty friendly. Somebody is supposed to remind him of it, and frankly, I should have done it. But in the moment, I felt a little weird because it felt a little self-serving to be like, well, you shouldn't be bidding on that because it's gonna help me. So anyhow, I felt bad. I apologized to him later. I mean, he was okay with it too, but it was a little awkward. It was a little annoying. I don't actually think it cost me the win here because I wind up using my money on a fancy lounge that helps connect and is like it at least is okay for me. But anyhow, Sarah makes a lot of smart bids in this one. Anyhow, probably frankly outplays me. Slash Vegas Showdown. The game partly is about putting yourself in position where you could win and hoping the right events flip. And on some level, the events were flipping at good times for Sarah. Again, part of being a good Vegas Showdown player is you put yourself in position. Part of being a good Vegas Showdown player is actually hitting the flips. Whatever combo it is, I do not get the win here, and I take third place. I also did not give Sarah a vibe point in my video of ranking the teams, so it was some righteous comeuppance I was due anyhow to wind up at her table and have her beat me. Uh, I enjoyed making that team tournament video, and a bunch of people throughout the week came up to me and said they really enjoyed it, and some people came up and like half argued with me, and that's part of the fun and the banter that I love, and part of why I make that video. So I'm glad that it resonates with a bunch of other WBC nerds, and I look forward to kind of continuing to evolve that format a little and continue to make it. But I really do appreciate the feedback from people that say they enjoy it or tell me that they watch it because it does help make me want to actually do it and put in a bit of the work on setting up the spreadsheet and reviewing everything to talk through it for 2 hours. So anyhow, all of that was cool. Oh man, Matt Craig told you about the nobody speaking up about Alex. Yeah, we should talk about it then, Robbie. I'm curious what you heard of the story. But honestly, to be honest, like Alex was pretty cool about it, and but I did feel bad because in hindsight, I'm like, I obviously am allowed to speak up in that. I'm obviously allowed to speak up in this instance and just remind a player of the rule. I'm not actually going to speak up and be like, you can't make that bid or you shouldn't make that bid. I am allowed to speak up though and just be like, hey, you do know the prereq chart, right? Like you are actively making a conscious decision to buy the 5-star steakhouse, and later you're assuming you're going to get a fancy restaurant to put both on your board. This is like an active strategy you're doing, right? Just you're not just like messing up, but it's like, wait, he is messing up. It turns out in this case, so somebody should have clarified it, and ideally one of the other players clarifies it, so it's not on me. But I might have been the only one to actually realize since I was the one that wanted it and knew that he couldn't actually do it. So I should have spoken up, and I didn't, and I felt bad about that. But she'll get a vibe point next year, presumably. What would you say are the goals to do in the early rounds of Through the Ages? So in Through the Ages, the key things to get done during age 1 is that you need to set up your economy, but you also need to be making sure that you're not gonna get wrecked militarily. I mean, fundamentally, that's kind of the whole like early to mid game of Through the Ages. Is the entire game of Through the Ages is how do I not get wrecked militarily? Um, and then the follow up is in the first half of the first like half to 2 ages, it's how do I set up my economy so I can score, and the second half slash the last age is how do I score without getting wrecked militarily. But again, the whole game is how do you not get wrecked militarily. So making sure you can efficiently build military is a really good like basis point. If you can efficiently build military, you should efficiently build military and put pressure on the other players. Slash, if you efficiently build enough military, you can just like war them or attack them and take their shit. And if people are not careful, the easiest way to win Through the Ages is to just efficiently build military and hammer them. To be honest, that is most of how I'm a good Through the Ages player, is I efficiently build military and I wreck people. I actually kind of struggle at these super high level tables where everybody knows how to like efficiently make military, and you have to now do the other stuff of how do you actually make your own points while still doing that. I've gotten better at that over the years. It's not like I'm bad. I'm a pretty dang good to very good Through the Ages player, but I'm not an expert. I'm not top tier like some of the very best in the world. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my summary of Through the Ages. Looping back to, yeah, vibe point. Sarah will get a vibe point. How do you not become the wildebeest that the lions are eating? Yeah, again, it's easier said than done to tell you to efficiently make military, but one of the things that people do wrong and through the ages all the time is kind of ignore military techs. In 4-player tables, it can be totally correct to like take knights for 3 civil actions in age 1, which feels like wildly aggressive, but it's also often what it's often what makes sure that you don't get wrecked. Um, you just have to have a plan on how you're going to be making strength, and it often involves key military techs. It often involves getting population into military. You cannot put that much population into more economy. Um, basically if you try to build too much economy, you're just going to get punished. So you just have to find that balance, but it is tough because once you start getting aggressed, you tend to just fall into a death spiral, especially in 4-player. Also, note that all of my Through the Ages advice is mostly 4-player centric because that's mostly what I play. It mostly applies to 3-player still, but 2-player Through the Ages is a completely different animal. Because in 2-player, since only one person can attack you, you can run strats that are like much more just culture aggression. Like just you can just out culture your opponent and just say, hey, even if you like attack me or war me, you are just not gonna ever catch up to how much culture I have. Good luck. But in a 4-player game, you cannot do that because if you try to just be like, I'm just gonna out culture you all 3 of them can attack you, and you cannot survive that level of aggression. So anyhow, you love Through the Ages, but it's hard to play with friends because somebody almost always becomes the wildebeest and gets eaten alive for hours. Yeah, I mean, you should also use the resign button, but a lot of people don't do that. You see that 0 5-star steakhouse. I mean, the bottom is for the winners boards. I mean, Sarah's board definitely did not have a 5-star steakhouse, but my board also did not have a 5-star steakhouse. But anyhow, moving on from that first Vegas Showdown heat, because now we've got a little bit waylaid, and there are a lot of days left. Up next is a heat of Santa Fe Rails. I really have been loving to play Santa Fe Rails over the years. I'm glad that Andrew Drummond taught me this game. Over the last several years, I have not lost a non-finals game of Santa Fe Rails, which is kind of wild because this game does involve drawing city cards off the top of the deck, and some cities are like just clearly better than other cities. And yet, I think there's a lot of skill in lane trades and earning points while laying track. And I think there's a lot of skill in lane trades to manipulate the track so that your cities score well. I liken it a lot to Acquire. In both Acquire and Santa Fe Rails, you are randomly drawing things. In Acquire, you're randomly drawing the tiles. In Santa Fe Rails, you're randomly drawing the city cards. And on your turn, you have a pretty limited subset of options. In Acquire, you can only play 6 different tiles. In Santa Fe Rails, you can only play like 4 different cities or 1 or 2 of these other cards. And in both games, though, with your limited options, you have to figure out how to kind of manipulate your position so that it's better than your opponents. You need to buy shares of stock and acquire so that you're more likely to be in a position of winning. In Santa Fe Rails, you need to play your city cards and manipulate the trains so that you are in a better position than your opponents and you're more likely to score your cities and have them score highly than your opponents. And I seem to just have a lot of skill at doing this. But I think it's very easy for players that are not doing that well to just always be like, well, I didn't draw the right cards, and so I lost, and miss a lot of the other skill. Because in Acquire, the same thing. A lot of people complain, well, I never have merge tiles, and I didn't have any control in the game. And it's like, sometimes that is true. I don't want to knock it. Like, it is occasionally true, but it's very easy to miss all of the, like, skillful plays or all of the misplays that led up to the fact that you have no merge tiles and no options. Because I just don't wind up dead drawing in Santa Fe Rails or Acquire very often now over the years. I've had a lot of success in both games. Anyhow, to speed along, this is a Santa Fe Rails game I draw relatively well. I am able to manipulate my double Duluth into being 12 points each. I do wind up with a Sacramento, double Sacramento. Sacramento is like always pretty good because the short line stops, so that was pretty lucky. And San Francisco here was for 2, but like I don't have any of the LAs, which are triples. Durango's kind of garbage. I wind up actually using this game goes long enough that Oklahoma City and Omaha I actually have time to Boomtown, which is kind of wild. But yeah, I wind up just playing a lot of city cards. I have solid cash. My opponents do fine enough things, but I do continue my streak of just winning Santa Fe Rails heat tables. This was a very enjoyable game, though. I really enjoy a lot of these gamers. Playing with Patrick and Broadwood in particular is always great fun. Jason was a fun opponent, too. And yeah, I really liked this game. So, Alan Moon, you don't know this game. Yeah, a lot of people do not know Santa Fe Rails. And how is it different from Ticket to Ride? Yeah, let me go back a step. I think more people should play Santa Fe Rails, but it's definitely out of print. So Sequence, but better. Got it. I mean, way better. So much better. In Santa Fe Rails, there's a couple of trains that start on the they start on the east of the map. I'm looking at the map upside down. Obviously, it's a map of the U.S., but on your turn in Santa Fe Rails, you play a city. Basically, all of the cities on the map have 2 cards in the deck. The cities that are close to the initial trains on the East Coast are not worth very many points. They're worth 3 or then 4, and then the cities kind of, as you start getting to the middle, are worth 5, 6, or 7. And that's how many points they're worth for number of different trains that make the cities. So, like when we zoom in on Duluth here, we have 2 different trains reaching Duluth. So Duluth scores 6 points for each different train reaching it. So each Duluth card is worth 12 points here. But that's why I said, like, if we zoom in way over on this Los Angeles has 1, 2, 3 different color trains coming into it. So if we had a Los Angeles card, Los Angeles is a 7-point city, there's 3 different trains, it would be worth 21 points for every Los Angeles card you had in front of you. So, however, obviously the trains don't just naturally wind up on the board. The trains start, and so each round you play a card, and then you also have the option to lay some track. So players lay track in turn order, and part of the game is picking which train you're playing and in which direction. None of these trains are owned by the players, they are just a collective thing. So, like, if you lay a green track, I could also lay a green track, or I could lay yellow track on my turn or blue track. It doesn't matter. We're all just making these trains move however we want. But so that's where a lot of the skill of the game comes from. Is the trains can only move from the head, the like front of the train. So as green like starts the game and gets built, whoever builds green next can move it into Duluth, or they can move it up toward Bismarck in Canada, or they can build it so that it starts going toward Billings, or they could start sending it south down towards Sioux Falls. And basically, like, that's where I think players have a lot of control and skill in this game of, like, at key points you can play a track and force a train down a different direction, and that's where a lot of the skill is. There's some further shenanigans that go on with the game. You earn money for playing to different spots. There's bonuses. The game is definitely more complex than Ticket to Ride, but it's not like a wildly complex game. It's definitely a midweight game. And anyhow, there's a lot of cool shit going on in it. I've really enjoyed learning it over the years. But yeah, so anyhow, nice heat win here. Um, yeah, good times. Up next, I play another Amun-Re Heat. This Amun-Re Heat is a very well played table, and my opponents do know how to leverage farmers pretty well here. And I try to build a money advantage, but I don't actually get that much of a money advantage. Yeah, the players that are like leveraging their farmers wind up beating me pretty handily here, 38 to 31. I also Amun-Re, as much as I love it, and I do want to give it credit, there is a decent amount of luck in the there's a decent amount of luck in the power card draws. And I also don't feel I draw particularly well on the power cards here, but that happens, so oh well. Sheesh, what a field. Yeah, to be clear, the Amun-Re field is also not where you go to get easy games. The Amun-Re field is full of all of my like all of the just generically good Euro gamers. And so yeah, it's there are no easy tables of Amun-Re. Not that there are that many easy tables at WBC of anything, but certainly yes, some of the fields at WBC have a handful more kind of casual players that just enjoy playing games and don't have all that much practice. The Amun-Re field is like, oh, here's a guy that's been going to WBC for 10 years and knows how to play Euro games very well, and like, yeah, the Amun-Re field's insane. But that's part of why it's so fun. You wind up with great games and great gamers. My next Arc Nova Heat. My next Arc Nova Heat, I actually was mixing up with my first one. This is the Arc Nova Heat where the player on my left, I think, might actually be like a 400s or 500s level player. They were playing very well, but in the final break, I top deck a giant panda that I'm able to snap, and I can already play the giant panda because I already have all the other things. I am playing outdoor areas again because my opponents let me pick outdoor areas, which was kind of nutty. I do wind up doing a 4 upgrade game. I have a pretty sick expert on Asia here, pumping out a lot of pavilions after playing a bunch of Asia tags. I also just wind up with a lot of different bears, and bears are generically pretty freaking good. I also wind up with Archaeologist. Duh. I also wind up with Archaeologist on this map. I don't even wind up covering up the last partner zoo, which is kind of crazy, but Archaeologist gets me all 3 of these partner zoos by covering up all of the edge spaces with Archaeologist. So Archaeologist on this map is dumb. I wind up with Explorer again, because, why not? I do way more projects this game. I just kind of spam projects. None of my animals are actually scoring that many points, so that part was a little bit sketch, but then the giant panda was huge late game payoff. And I do wind up with another nice Arc Nova win. Apparently, I don't have a picture of that Arc Nova score sheet. That's a slight bummer. But I do get another Arc Nova win. Um, outdoor areas only gamer. Yeah. You nor I started 2 left. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting on this original map to not start, like, boom, boom for the early partner zoo. But both times I did not rush the early partner zoo on this map, which is pretty atypical. Base game outdoor areas rushing the early partner zoo is often correct, but I think it was correct for me not to this tournament. Um. Anyhow, after this Arc Nova heat, I do get 2 wins, and it's confirmed that I have a bye straight to the semifinals. That's very cool. Over the last year, I've played a lot of Arc Nova with Robbie, who's in the chat, Average Joe. I also played a bunch of Arc Nova with like Andrew. Later this year, Sean joined our server. I played a bunch with Lumen, and I played a bunch with Mike. Lumen unfortunately wound up playing only 1 heat, and he wound up seeded after last year's champion, and he wound up losing by a bit. So he sadly did not advance. The other 5 of us, none of us, like all 5 of us, got buys to the semifinal. I think only 9 people got buys, or 10. 9 or 10 people had guaranteed buys, and we were 5 of them. So that was pretty cool. That like all of the collective effort that kind of my friend group put into Arc Nova this past year, we all kind of showed up playing a lot sharper and stronger, and collectively, we sucked up like a bunch of the guaranteed buys straight to the semifinals. So that was neat. But yeah, the semifinals were coming later in the week. But yeah, I was feeling pretty cool. I was feeling pretty nice for our crew. 9 people had buys, and we had 5 of them. Okay, yeah. So 9 people. Yeah, so 9 people had buys, and we sucked up 5 of them with our crew. So yeah, anyhow, that was hot. That was cool. Amin Ray semifinal. So I did not take a picture during the semifinal, and now we can already see the scores from the semifinal. I almost take last place this game. I wind up playing another game where I'm trying to get the money advantage, but I wind up with a very muted money advantage. I do still have a money advantage going into the second half, but you can see in the first half, like, I really don't score. And some of the other opponents were at least scoring okay, so that's already a decent deficit to make up. But they, again, were able to leverage farmers a lot better than I'm used to. One of the things that they were really good at doing was making sure to take power card rewards during sacrifices, which is a fun way to get power cards, because one of the issues with most of the farmer provinces is you don't actually have good access to farmer or to power cards. And I do think power cards are somewhat the lifeblood of doing well in the game, because if you draw good income ones, you make more money, and you can draw more scoring opportunities, which is obviously valuable. And some of them just give you kind of free bricks or free farmers, which help your economy. So, um, one of the issues with stealing, like I was doing, is like, yeah, you make money during the sacrifices, but um, yeah, yeah. Basically, anyhow, yeah. So I wind up stealing a lot, which helps with the money, but it means that I'm not actually getting that many power cards, because like I'm only able to buy 1 or 2 around. Uh, but the thing that really kills me here, though, is I do go into the second half with like a decent money advantage. But the other advantage to sacrificing that I think I undervalue is that really good tables, players know how to bid, and so they open the bids at like basically the correct values. And so there is advantage to going earlier in the bid order, and whoever sacrifices the most bids first. So I was often sacrificing pretty, or not sacrificing, I was often auctioning pretty late this game. And by auctioning pretty late, other people were already on the bid spots that I wanted. And Amun Ray has fixed bid tracks like Mega Showdown. So if somebody's on the spot you want, you can't just one up them. You have to go to the next space, which is often like $6 more in the late game. So that's kind of brutal. Anyhow, what happens though that really kills my game is the 4th round. We flip the auction. We flip the provinces, and 4 of the provinces have no pyramids in them, which is almost all of the no pyramid provinces. Like we at the start of the 4th round, you just randomly deal the provinces out. And anyhow, it's pretty unlikely that there was going to be so many no pyramid provinces and only one province that like mattered. But the player earlier in bid order got to put a bid blockade plus bid out, and I like just couldn't justify going too higher in order to knock them off of the thing. But that made that I had to settle for a province that had no pyramids, which is also like really bad. With my money advantage, I was hoping to be able to use my money to buy pyramids directly in provinces that already had them. But yeah, the opening flop like extra killed me. But I don't think I was like winning the game anyhow. I just think it probably cost me like 3rd place. But anyhow, Rob played this one really well. I'm happy for him that he got to advance. And yeah, this semifinal did not go my way. But 2025 score sheet, GMing is hard, okay? Yeah, I mean, I agree. It says WBC 2025, but as you know, like if you printed extra sheets last year, you just write a 6 and you just write a 6 and move on. Like the GMs are just volunteers that are bringing their own printed sheets. So yeah. The other thing that wasn't great about Amun Ray for me is that the Amun Ray semifinal was scheduled to start at 11 o'clock at night. So admittedly, some of these decisions I'm making at midnight, which is not my natural hour. So whatever. The next day is the BPA annual meeting. I thought this went pretty well this year. I mean, well, sort of. They did show off the new website. They showed a preview of the new website. That was cool. It looks like it's promising. I mean, it's still going to take quite a while to get here, but hopefully we finally as an org are going to get there over the next year or two, and that's going to be way more legit. They also announced that the auction and auction store is going away in its current format. I think this is a net positive for the con. It takes so much time and energy and volunteers to run it for such a subset of the actual thing. It seems so ancillary to the core mission of the BPA, and it's so ancillary to the focus of the gameplay and the tournaments, which is where WBC excels. I'm still very pro finding some sort of solution that works for all involved parties, but I think blocking out so many gaming hours of the schedule from people that I come there to play games, and the thing WBC does excellent is the scheduled gaming. And for there to be no gaming from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., which is what it currently was this year still, is just weird to me. And so I'm glad that that was announced that it was gone. But anyhow, the meeting got into a little bit of anger and annoyance about that decision, which I do think the board should have cut that conversation off just a little bit sooner, but eventually I spoke up and got us on a different track. And then Rob Murray, in particular, gave a really nice kind of speech about how we all love this con, but the con is almost a victim of its own success, and we're missing a lot of the problems that are happening, and we're not really addressing a lot of the root causes. And so, anyhow, yeah, I thought that was a really, and we had a really productive conversations with some of the board members afterwards, with some of us who are a little kind of interested in some of the direction that the organization is going. And anyhow, again, I plan to run for the board next year. I have a bunch of different thoughts. I can share some of those in different videos. I got to talk to many people throughout this week about some of my thoughts. The 30-second pitch is simply the on-the-ground experience of the con is great, but our digital presence does not match the excellence of our con. And furthermore, I think both online and in the in-person event, we can start using a lot of technology and tools to make things a lot smoother. One of my specific points is like I still think it's kind of insane as a GM that I am entering all of my information into my computer to spit out the results and the score sheet, but then I have to go to registration, print them off, and that means Ken at some point is taking my printed information and like putting it back into a digital format so that he can put it into the BPA's systems and stuff. So there's got to be ways to do all of that better and smarter in the 2020 year 2026. Honestly, there's got to be a better way to have done it in the year 2016. But our con and organization is a little behind the times, I guess, is the summary. And I would like to get on the board and help push it forward. And I have a lot of passion, a lot of ideas, and some time to work on various stuff. So anyhow, how many gray-haired Avalon Hill gamers there? Putting yourself in that group. Yeah, to be clear, I don't in any way want to like knock that group. There are a bunch of people that have been attending the con since it was Avalon Con. That's what WBC was born out of, right? The Avalon Hill Game Company put on a con called Avalon Con to play and celebrate their games. And that's why so many of our titles are own Avalon Hill titles and still get played, including Acquire, but plenty of the war games. There's a bunch of them there. I don't know the exact numbers. Our con pulls about 1,500 attendees. I have no idea what the split is on all of the war gamers who tend to skew a bit older versus the other gamers that tend to skew a bit younger, blah blah blah. But there are plenty of people who have been going for decades and love the old Avalon Hill titles, and that is part of the loveliness of WBC is that they still play a lot of these great games and classics, along with a bunch of the new stuff too. Um, Anyhow, speaking of new stuff, Great Western Trail New Zealand. Because I already had a win in Great Western Trail, I really only needed a tiebreak result. I think New Zealand's really fun. I find it very interesting to play. I don't think I'm anywhere near as good at it, so the try hard nature of myself plays base Great Western in tournaments still, but the fun part of me wants to play New Zealand, and so it was fun to give the fun part of me a little bit of breathing room this week. Um, how did Agricola at WBC go? Badly. I failed to make the semifinal round, is the answer. You'll have to watch the VOD for the specifics, but basically, all three of my Heat games I failed to win for various reasons, uh, including the field is stupidly good. Like, some good player each year cannot make the semifinals because, like, there's only 16 slots, but it turned out it was my turn, even though I think I'm a little bit better than a good player. I am very good, but it was my turn to sit out. As for this New Zealand game, this New Zealand table is very fun, very good gamers. It was very tightly played. I appear to not have a I don't I appear to not have a score sheet for this one, but I wind up taking I think second or it might have even been third. But the game was wildly close for New Zealand. The top score was like a little over 100 and last place was like 86 and I was somewhere in the 90s. I ran a pretty cool Shepherd game, just doing good deliveries and Shepherd stuff. I didn't wind up with as many objectives as I would have liked, nor did I wind up with like as many like hazard or bonus tiles. But I mean, the game pace was pretty blistering. I did wind up with a lot of the best super sheep, which helped me cycle my deck and get the good deliveries. And I did get a couple early rafts to help with the money income. But I think I did a few other things wrong. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this was a second place. Actually, it was definitely a second place. Because I had a first second after the heats, which easily guaranteed me to the semis, so that was good. Um, is there a VOD? Depends on who you ask. There will be a VOD in the finals, correct? Who was playing in the finals and who won it? The finals this year for Agricola, the people in it was Sam Wolf, Robbie, Micah, and Shadow. And Shadow does go on to win. Robbie gets second place by a point. Robbie being Average Joe, and indeed he just shared. Um, but yeah, those are basically all like 500 level plus players on BGA. I think Lone Wolf and Average Joe tend to hover in the like low to mid 500s. Micah is mostly an original edition player, but if he played revised consistently, he'd probably be right about in that group. And Shadow, I don't think actually plays enough online, but if he did, I'm pretty sure he would also basically hover in the like low to mid 600s along with me at Agricola. So I do think Shadow was the favorite at that table by a small margin, but it was a very strong table. Anybody could have won, but Shadow indeed did get the win. Anyhow, the sheep was good. It was a fun game. Then I move on to the Great Western semifinals. This game was frustrating in the extreme. Uh, well, in the extremes a stretch. I don't think I got that annoyed, but I was annoyed. My opponents, the guy on my right opens the game with a builder. In Great Western base game, if you let builders kind of go uncontested and unmolested, they will beat you. They will build a bunch of tax buildings, they will collect all of your money, and they will use all of that money to buy more builders, put buildings everywhere, make the trail miserable. They are going to get to leverage all of their super buildings. They will crush you. That is just what's going to happen. So, by the time you get to the semifinals, you assume people know that. I open, but this is pretty early in the game. This is pretty early in the game. I opened the game by building. Whoops. Sorry. This is fairly early in the game. I opened by building my cow purchase building on the swamp of the board so that I can pitch cards for certificates. I I opened the game by building, and then I second action use that to buy a cow, pitch some bad cards for certificates and money. And this mildly declares that I'd like to be a cowboy because I'd like to buy some better cows. I've already taken the best spot for cowboys on this map because we don't have the cow shuffler building, so the bet like in my opinion, in base game Great Western, in order to be a good cowboy, if you don't have the cow shuffler building, you have to take advantage of risk action spaces. Because it's the only way that you're going to cycle your deck enough. Like, it's a way to get rid of the bad cards and improve your deliveries. Without that, I think cows really struggle. So I'm sort of expecting nobody else is really going to go cowboys because I'm expecting it to not go well for them. I also think all of us need to actually build some tax buildings and buy a builder or two. Because if we let Carl get all of the builders, we're going to lose. To speed this up, Dalton decides that he's going to open the game by buying two builders. Or not builders, sorry. He buys two cowboys. And he later pushes to five cowboys. He does not buy a builder. This picture I took immediately after Dalton delivered because Dalton put out two more builders, you'll notice, so that there was a total of four builders just sitting on the row, which guarantees that Carl knows during this next loop that if he can get to enough money, there will still be builders for him because we cannot possibly block the builders. This is the first of many mistakes that I am baffled that Dalton makes because I think he's pretty good. But putting two builders onto the $7 row, I get it. You're preventing them from going on the $5 row is your theory. But the $5 row is probably not going to be accessible for Carl during his next loop, and the $7 row is. And so you're just telling Carl, like, hey, these builders are there for you. You can rush to four builders. We cannot possibly stop you. Terrible. Dalton also does not build a tax building to get in Carl's way because he builds his own cow purchasing building. But he builds his own cow purchasing building not on a risk action space, so he's never going to cycle his deck and he's never going to have good deliveries. The last player at the table decides he's going to buy the early engineer and do some engineer stuff. Reasonable enough, to be honest, like fine. But he also does not build a tax building the next loop. And he also never buys a builder, even with his extra engineer hires. He never cuts builders away from Carl and stashes them into Station Master tiles. So I am playing a game where Carl has declared builders, and my opponents are like, I'm going to play engineers with no builders, no tax buildings. I'm going to play cowboys, no builders, no tax buildings. And I'm like, well, fudge. I've already set up a bit in the Southern Swamp. I bought an early builder. I've already invested a bit of my early money into cows, so like I don't have the tempo to like rush Carl to these builders and play a builder game. I cannot block him, especially after Dalton puts out all these builders. So anyhow, the short of it, Carl crushes us because the table collectively said, Carl, you can play builders pretty unmolested. You can put out all the tax buildings because we're going to take none of the tax building spots. We're not going to tax you, but you can tax us. And Carl goes on to crush like any Great Western player should do from this position, and all the rest of us are just scrambling to fight each other desperately. And the final scores lay this out very clearly that Carl crushes us with 103, and the rest of us are diddling around at 63, 60, and 59. I believe this is my only fourth place of the week, but I cannot stress enough how. Or, sorry, it's not my only fourth of the week. I took fourth in the Ahmed Ray finals or semis also, but I believe it's my only true dead fucking last of the week. We'll see as I keep adding them up here on the side. But I think this might be the only game where I didn't beat at least one opponent. But also, what a dumb game. I still don't actually understand how Dalton thinks he could ever have won doing what he did because he was never gonna. Two things: he was never gonna shuffle his deck enough in order to have good deliveries, and then the second thing, he was never going to be able to beat an unmolested builder when he fed the builder player more builders to purchase. So I don't. He's a pretty good gamer and he's quite good at Great Western. He's won before, but I do not understand what his thought was about the table dynamics. But Canadian Carl, yes, correct. Ah, yes, the good old DFL, yeah. Oh, I see you get here just in time to find out why I was raging after the semi. Yeah, well, I'm glad that you got to listen to this explanation, Patrick, because I have to assume that you agree with my broad analysis here, but you probably have even better insight into some of the specifics than I do, but it was absolute insanity in my opinion. I'm like, oh, we're just gonna hand Carl the win collectively because why not? But I when they kept not building tax buildings to even slow down Carl's loop, and then Carl got to set up this insanely efficient and good loop because none of the like primo building spots got blocked and nobody taxed him. It was it was so frustrating to watch. But anyhow, you was distracted by getting made with that fourth final slot. You didn't really know what was happening in my game. Yeah, I mean you shouldn't know what was happening in my game. It's fine. Uh, Anyhow, that's just random with the buildings. It's been so long since you played Great Western. Yeah. To be clear, the buildings each game get randomized. So half of the games have a cow shuffler, and half of them do not. Half the games have cow shuffler, and half the games have hazard removal. So especially in the games that have hazard removal, you really want to build on the risk action spaces, because if the cow shuffler's not in there, that means the hazard removal building is in the game. And so I do build the hazard removal building right in front of my cow purchasing building, and I clear this bottom part of hazards. Which, by the way, that's the other thing that was super unfortunate. As soon as Dalton delivered, the other black hand hazard showed up. There's only 2 black hand hazards in the swamp. One of them started the game in the swamp. I decide to build in the swamp, and then Dalton goes to deliver, and lo and behold, what other tile shows up early in the game but the other freaking black hand hazard to cost me extra dollars every loop? Like, I expected another green hand hazard to show up in the swamp relatively early, because, like, whatever, that's statistically likely, but for it to be the other black hand one was freaking annoying. But, I mean, that was very small potatoes thing in the overall equation, but it certainly wasn't good news for me. But whatever, we move on to other games. Second Stone Age Heat, for me. This Stone Age Heat also goes pretty well. I get a bunch of tools. I have a weird mishmash of cards, like a decent amount of people multipliers, some tool multipliers, a solid number of building multipliers, but not that many buildings. But again, I get a very efficient building out and another pretty efficient building out. And I think this game might only be 9 rounds anyhow, so like you don't need that much shit in a 9-round game in order to win. And I do get. Oh wait, no, I don't win this game. Whoops, never mind. This is the other Stone Age Heat. I take second in this heat. I don't have a score sheet apparently, but I do take second in this heat. My memory's actually a little fuzzy about this game because yeah, I kind of ran there after the Great Western game, and I was still thinking about the Great Western game a bunch. But yeah, I do take second place at this Stone Age table. You can't wait for the St. Pete semis. The St. Pete semis, I don't even know what happened there, but we'll talk about it. Hopefully I'll speed up a little. This video is clearly going to be 2.5 hours, or at this point. The next one was the St. Pete Heat. Apparently I'm missing a picture of the. Oh no, here's a picture of my tableau. This is a 3-player St. Pete game, which is kind of nuts. The quick summary is Cliff plays St. Pete quite well. Cliff flips a judge on round 2, or maybe a mistress. I don't quite remember. He flips a good card, and I don't flip good cards when I'm first nobles. So that's the quick answer. The longer answer is in round 4, I'm first in buildings, and I'm expecting to buy the discounted Super Academy. And Cliff actually puts the damn Academy into his hand during the worker phase. And I do want to give him a lot of credit for that, because I think it was a really savvy move that I did not expect him to do. But in hindsight, I think it was very much correct, especially in a 3-player game, because the game's going to go 7 rounds. And so the Academy is like really actually a very good card. But normally, people just don't touch the Academy. And I'm like, oh, I could just buy it off the bottom of the row at the start of the building phase. So, like, why would I do anything with it here? But yeah, so Cliff snags that away from me. And I think that maybe was my like last great chance to beat him. As is, I play well, but Cliff gets the win here. I get a fine second place. So it's just how it goes. All right, that's the end of Tuesday. So Tuesday was kind of a bummer because, yeah, Great Western did not go well, and then both Stone Age and St. Pete wound up being second places, but again, that's just how it goes. The next morning, I wind up in the next St. Pete Heat. This St. Pete Heat does go my way. I wind up in a 5-round game. I'm first upgrades. Apparently, I don't have a picture of my tableau, but I have a picture of the score sheet. I do wind up playing Lumen in this heat. Lumen winds up drawing first workers, which is pretty just dead and awful. He does what he can, but it's pretty much losing. Anthony is doing a solid game in First Aristocrats, but yeah, I don't even remember if I got an. Anthony winds up with an Observatory, and yeah, 7 uniques. He needed to find an 8th unique to beat me, but he was unable to do so. I don't even remember what upgrade I got in this game, unfortunately, anymore, because I did not take a picture of the tableau, so I can't give a lot of details here besides like I thought Lumen and Anthony and myself all played our positions like very reasonably, but yeah, I had good income and like reasonably good flips, and I'm able to get the win in a 5 round game. So that's a nice heat win that advances me to the St. Pete semifinals. Um, those scores look hilarious, having basically only played 4 player. Oh, the 3 player scores for St. Pete do look hilarious, but 7 round games are a wild. But that's how 3 player goes. The state next up is the Stone Age quarterfinals. I wind up playing against Sam Wolf, who's very good. I apparently just took a. I did like these resources that the guy had. This upgrade to this stuff was pretty cool. I don't. This semifinal, the player in front of me did not like growing their family, which, to be fair, in Stone Age, growing is like not that good. You would prefer to like farm or tool, but they seem to have gone a little bit too far in the direction of like growing is just bad, and growing's not bad. You should still grow. So I bid for first seat, and I open farm, and I wheel grow. So that was already very promising. But yeah, I wind up like growing to 8 pretty rapidly because the player in front of me just never takes it. So during the early rounds, I just keep taking the economy because that's what you're supposed. That's generally what you should do in Stone Age. You should basically be taking whichever a farm tool or grow you're given in the early rounds because economy is good. And so yeah, fundamentally, like I'm able to just get more economy, and then I just wind up winning. There's a little more to it than that. I mean, Sam and I try to both make things a little tricky on each other. We both set ourselves up for other stuff. Sam makes a lot of good moves, but yeah, I just wind up with a little too much, and I apparently forget the score sheet here once again. But that is a nice quarterfinal win for me. Um, so I am through to the Stone Age semifinals with that result, but that was a quarterfinal. So that was a nice win. Next up is the Santa Fe semifinals. This is a picture of my table that Andrew Drummond took. Andrew Drummond's the guy in the conductor cap. He's a great friend, a great personality at WBC. He's on the board. He's been very passionate about Santa Fe Rails. He's the one that's taught me the game and has really promoted it. And I love playing with him. Santa Fe Rails at WBC has a really nice culture of allowing kind of open discussion of game state. It's not like outright negotiation, but you can kind of point out like, hey, if you do that move, this other guy is going to get really rewarded. And I think that's kind of twofold. I think the game somewhat naturally leads itself to a little bit of this discussion, anyhow, and slash it used to get played a bit more by kind of wargamers and stuff who enjoyed more of a little bit open discussion of game state. And I think the other reason though is like it's a little bit useful to be able to talk through these things because Santa Fe Rails does have a little bit of this. If you're not very experienced at the game, you can kind of accidentally throw somebody a lot of points by building a train and setting up somebody for an opportunity that you don't quite see because you don't have the experience for it. And anyhow, I really like that Santa Fe Rails allows a little bit of discussion. I think it's good for me. I think I as a player who likes diplomacy and likes kind of open discussion and negotiation, I do not want it in all of my games by any means. I am glad that most of the Euros have a very much like we don't actually discuss our moves openly. We're playing the board. We're seeing who's the best strategist. I think though it is nice to have a couple of games that allow some more open discussion of game states. This is a nice break for me, kind of each week to have a little bit to get to flex a little bit of those kind of diplomacy and game state discussion uh, skills. It also though just leads to a lot of fun table talk and banter, and I just like it. The tables are a little more lively because of it. And anyhow, I always love playing with Andrew Drummond in particular because he's so into it. But Matt and Tom were also excellent opponents. Very fun. Um, I do feel bad that I keep pulling Andrew Drummond in the semifinals because the last 2 years I have knocked him out of the semifinal round, and now this is year 3 that we're matched up in the semifinals once again. Andrew's draws in the early game are really horrific. Both Matt and Tom are doing some really good things with money in the early game. And Tom winds up in a position where he's like $10 ahead of me and equal on city cards, which is pretty spooky. Like my rough way to tell who's winning this game is you kind of add up people's city cards and you check their money, and like every city card I value at about $12. And so yeah, like if you're even on city cards though, like okay, you're even, and then you look at somebody's money. Now, obviously, not every city card's actually equivalent though, and like early in the game, it's really hard to know how valuable some people's city cards are going to be. You can make your best guesses, but you have to actually get the trades to go there. Tom, I think, winds up really not getting enough of his trades to go where they need to go through whatever vagaries of skill or luck or whatever happens in the game. And I feel that I'm in a very good position toward the end. But then Drummond starts laying down banger after banger of cities. We are nearly at the end of the game, and the first Denver gets played by Andrew. And I look at everybody else's cities that we all just played. All of the draw deck is exhausted. There's no draw left. And nobody played the other Denver yet. And it's like Denver in this game is kind of just an automatic keep because it's almost always at least 12 points, and sometimes it's like 16 or 20. Um, so that spooks me a lot because I'm like, if Andrew is not playing Denver, like if nobody else played Denver here and Andrew just played a Denver, it means he has the other Denver, and he probably has other good cards. So Andrew kind of comes roaring back late, but he had such a bad early game that by the time we're adding it up, I'm like, maybe Andrew caught up to me, but it turns out he doesn't. I wind up having some nice Salt Lake City, El Paso. Like this is a like this is a 3 city El Paso, which is good. But like Spokane and Durango are kind of garbage. But this is a triple value Sacramento, so that's pretty dang good. I think this Las Vegas winds up being triple value by the end. This Albuquerque's solid. So anyhow, I wind up manipulating my trades pretty well. I do wind up with a good amount of money by the end. I do set up a really nice move where I get to get a lot of value off of driving green into Seattle, which is a destination city. It does hand Andrew quite a few points right after me. So like I do a bunch of effort to give Andrew and myself points, but at that stage of the game I felt good about it. But then later in the game I was like, uh-oh, Andrew is finding all the good cities right at the end. But I apparently I don't have a apparently once again, or do I just have these out of order? Oh, I just have these out of order. Here's the Stone Age score sheet. Sorry, so the Stone Age score sheet, I beat Sam by a little bit and beat Ed by just a little bit. But then yeah, the final shot of Santa Fe's here. You like games with discussion? Yeah, it's nice. Randy's game score versus yours, I think. Maybe it's a different heat. Matt told you about this game too. Oh, interesting. I mean, this Santa Fe Rails game was, yeah, this was a well played game. I think Matt kind of drew iffy cities later. Slash, I think Matt is still kind of learning Santa Fe Rails, and I think he missed a couple opportunities to drive his trains where he needed them to go. But yeah, I went up with a ton of 5 value cities this game, but like a lot of good 5 value cities. This Salt Lake is triple. This Bismarck is double, or is this Bismarck triple? I don't know. Anyhow, I wind up leveraging pretty dang good cities. Although I do have to play freaking Minneapolis and Omaha and stuff, but I think I wind up with pretty good money here too. And I do wind up winning this. Yeah, I do wind up with tied for the most money by the end. And yeah, I do wind up winning this Santa Fe semifinal. So this does get me more laurels because I will for sure be in the finals. And this is now the 4th straight year that I've made the finals, and the 3rd straight year I've taken Andrew out in the semifinals. So again, feel a little brutal that I keep pulling Andrew because I do think I think he's quite good at Santa Fe Rails, and I think he gets 5th or 6th place laurels for this. So I think he's still laureled in the event, but I'm on to a finals. I've had second 3 straight years, so I'm hoping to get the win in Santa Fe Rails, but we'll see. Yeah, laurels, yeah. All right, up next, Vegas Showdown. This is Vegas Showdown. This is my last chance to play Vegas Showdown, so I have to get this win if I want to play in the Vegas Showdown semifinals. But in this game, I wind up doing stuff that I'm fairly comfortable with. I build a lounge. I get like a nightclub relatively cheap. I just build a restaurant. I don't actually buy that many tiles, as you can see. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like 9 tiles is not that much. My income's never like that great, but I do wind up with a relatively early fancy lounge that's like not that expensive. I do later renovate it, I think. But basically, yeah, theater flips. I save my money, or I already had money, and I get to just slam that theater into this open slot to fill my casino side. Create a couple partial diamonds. The theater's just wildly efficient points. The nightclub was good efficient points. And the game ends before anybody can like have like a mega arc. Plus, again, like I'm filling both sides and having connections. Like my end game points, while I don't have good other stuff, I just have so many in game points. Plus, I have the filling the sides bonuses that yeah, I do wind up getting the win here. This is a 5-player table. It was well played. Again, the tables in the tables for Vegas Showdown are also consistently quite good. There's just a lot of strong players, but it felt good to get the win here. I've become a much better Vegas Showdown player over the years, partly because Matt Craig has helped me learn a lot. So, yeah, it was nice to be able to make it back to the semifinals here with this result. Up next is the first heat of Acquire. Yeah. I missed a picture earlier here today, sorry. I played Hoity Toity earlier in the day, but Hoity Toity did not go that well, so I did not make the Hoity Toity semifinals. Hoity Toity, also known as a Delverb Flecht, but that was the title Avalon Hill published it under. I enjoy it. It's sort of glorified rock paper scissors, but yeah. Anyhow, I did not advance in Hoity Toity, but I was glad that I played it. It was fun to get a heat in. I've not been able to play it at WBC for a few years. But the first heat went reasonably well. I took second, but then the next heat, I made a couple bad calls and got super pilfered, and just had really no chance from there. But uh, Murica, yeah, correct. This is just a mid game shot of we were absorbing American and counting up who had the most, and like I was getting a majority payout. This heat of Acquire was one of those where I just got to buy more than just. This is just a heat of Acquire where I just outplayed the table, is going to be my argument. I get to invest in companies that are likely to merge. I buy a lot of shares. They're kind of in the center of the board. Eventually, a merge or two goes my way. And then from there, I'm able to just kind of leverage making the best purchases and like continuing to chase down good payouts. If I remember correctly, I think players in this game wound up trading up too early. Um, you do want to trade for and get endgame majorities in this game, but depending on how many mergers happen in a game of Acquire, you don't necessarily want to trade your early shares. You want to just keep them so that the company reforms and that you get paid out more bonuses. And you want to kind of use your money in the early to mid game to just keep buying up more majorities so that you just get more bonuses. And then, yeah, you tend towards the mid to late game want to trade your way into the end game majorities. And knowing that timing and that arc of when you should be doing one and when you should be doing the other based on how the game's playing out is a decent amount of the skill I have. But anyhow, yeah, I think my opponents in this game trade up too fast, allowing me to just churn too many other payouts throughout the game. And by the end of the game, I have a pretty darn comfortable win. I was second in the first merger, which often helps to make sure you have some money to continue to kind of abuse. I do think Jennifer wound up getting just completely like money crushed this game and not able to buy things, but even then, pretty smooth win. So that was a nice result. I wasn't sure I was actually playing Acquire this year. And to be fair, Acquire still had some issues in my schedule, but getting the Heat win was solid. And that was it for my Wednesday. So the Wednesday was pretty sweet. We got wins in the Santa Fe semifinals, and I got wins in all of St. Pete, Vegas Showdown, and Acquire to set up semifinals later in the week. Um, for those who are still a bit late or still listening, one of the things that went really well this week for me is I made a lot of semifinals. I actually played in more semifinals than I ever have before at 12. Um, that's sort of for three reasons. One reason, I won a lot of heats this year. Like, my heats did go very well outside of Agricola. Second, the schedule is very favorable to me this year. My events were pretty spread out. There was a very clear path where I could qualify for a lot of semifinals, and it did work out for me. And then third, the other reason that I got to play so many semis this year is because I didn't actually win that many semis. So a lot of other years, I have made 10 semifinals, but then off of those 10 semifinals, I've made something absurd like 8 finals. And to find time to play those 8 finals starts to kill heats and opportunities in other games. So like I can't actually get to 12 semifinals played. So the other reason I got to play so many semifinals this year is because a bunch of the semifinals didn't actually work. Didn't wind up paying off or becoming wins, which also reduced my other chances. So anyhow, Thursday I had set up 4 straight semifinals in the morning. The first one was St. Petersburg, and I do need to start talking through these days faster. Oh, for winning the Acquire Heat, I want a sweet Acquire shirt, which we're wearing right now, so that's cool. I posted the St. Pete qualifiers. I don't need that. The St. Pete semifinals were up first in the morning. Apparently, I don't even take a picture of that score sheet either because I was too frustrated after the game. I bid for first aristocrats, and I even get first nobles, or I even get a first round judge, which should be winning. And yet, my opponent does get a like nice blue building and hits a Potemkin's village in round 2. The worker flip in round 2 is also very good for them because they're able to buy a second worker because I can't afford it because it's too like all of them flip too high of money, and I don't have quite enough money. Uh, the number of slots that open up for aristocrats in some of the other rounds is bad for me. Um, the rest of the flips in the game are just kind of bad for me after getting a round 1 judge. But I think I must have misplayed something somewhere, because with a round 1 judge, I should just be winning. But anyhow, I don't. After we take the bids out, I don't even quite have second place after the bids, which is still very confusing to me, and I wish I could replay that game on BGA to figure out what the hell totally happened, because I should have done better. Like, a small part of me legit wonders if I somehow like didn't get my money payout for one section, but like I'm usually pretty good about administering game state, so like it seems unlikely that that's the answer, but like intuitively I should not be scoring only 50 with a round 1 judge. So I don't know what happened though. So you also distracted me from taking a picture, you think? Oh, never mind, it was Vegas. Nah, it's fine. You would have played Acquire if you knew there were shirts. Renegade has been promoting some of their games quite heavily, so if you want a shirt, you should definitely play Diplomacy, because Diplomacy always has tons of swag. But lately, Renegade has been sending some swag for Acquire and occasionally for Vegas Showdown. And I wonder if they'll start supporting Monsters Menace now that they're reprinting that too. Um, but anyhow, Vegas Showdown semifinals. Vegas Showdown semifinals, I think I do play kind of sloppy. One of the things I'm pretty proud of in 2025 and even mostly in 2026 is that I think I consistently give my opponents a very hard out. I don't think I make a lot of mistakes in games. I'm not claiming by any means I'm playing perfect, because I'm sure I'm not. But I'm often not blundering. I'm often not like throwing games I should be winning. I am playing quite sharply and I'm making it hard like to beat me. This is one of the games that I probably played the worst this week, though. And by no means am I beating myself up too much though, because I don't think I like blundered. But in the semifinals, I have to start playing strats I'm a bit less a fan of anymore. I'm a bit more used to doing these kind of low income strats that are a bit points greedy, that just buy efficient like fancy lounges and maybe spike a theater or nightclub and are not that focused about income. But this game, I kind of play an income game. I buy a bunch of tiles that are helping improve my income, and my income is up there relatively high. I'm hoping to get bonus points from my income. I'm hoping to get bonus points for map fill and connection. But you will notice I do not actually fill my map, nor do I connect. So that's a pretty. I think I really messed up by not prioritizing getting those things done. And in particular, I think I get distracted by this fancy restaurant business. I think the game I'm playing is not going to be particularly diamond heavy because I'm trying to fill map and fight income. And that does not mean that I'm buying a lot of like fancy tiles or expensive shit. So I think this comes from not playing enough big income games anymore to realize that the fancy restaurant at 18 was actually not a particularly good deal for me. Um, Even with the restaurant event still in the deck, I think it's still just a distraction mostly from the higher priorities of like actually filling my map and connecting. The other thing is with the fancy lounge on my board already, like I could just be saving for a theater, and a theater does connect me right here. Dropping a theater would connect me, but I also kind of bumble that, and the theater does flip relatively late, but I don't have $52 to buy it, and then the game ends before anybody can buy it. So I mean, a little bit if the game goes a little longer, maybe I do better. But like, I also blundered my opportunity for the theater anyhow because the player in front of me also is kind of playing for the theater, but they don't have quite enough money for it. But I wound up like they would have bought it if the game went one more round. So anyhow, I don't think I played this one very sharply, and so I rightly did not win. Also, we gotta ask the chat, what is the max point in a 5-round St. Pete game? Yeah, that part is, it was an interesting puzzle to figure out what the highest possible score in 5 rounds if you pick how the deck comes out and play all sides. Yeah, it would be an interesting puzzle, and to be clear, Robbie and Andrew do it, because Chad Martin scores something like an 80-something in a 5-round game of St. Pete's, or at least what he claims is a 5-round game. I look at the score sheet, I'm like, this is a 6-round game where a bunch of players played poorly and scored in the upper 40s and low 50s. And he's like, no, this was a 5-round game where I scored 80 plus and everybody else did pretty well scoring upper 40s and low 50s. And I am just very much dubious about that. He's probably right because he knows the game well and he knows what his starting position was. But scoring 80 plus in a 5-round game of St. Pete is ludicrous in a format where we ban the mistress. Like, I struggle to fathom how it happens against opponents that are making reasonable moves. So to be clear, the constriction on this is you have to assume the opponents are at least mildly competent. As in, like, they are clearly buying 2 workers in round 1. It's not like you could just buy 6 lumberjacks in round 1 because clearly you could score over 100 in St. Pete if we allow you to buy 6 lumberjacks and 2 gold miners in the first round and all of your opponents just pass on workers. But like that's not a real outcome. So like trying to pretend that a somewhat real outcome, clearly your opponents are still giving you a bunch of cards they shouldn't be. But like it's still hard to fathom how you score 80. But anyhow, Andrew and Robbie did it, and the answer is much higher than I would have bet. Exactly. Robbie and Andrew did decide it was possible to score well over 100 against quasi okay opponents if you just had insane flips and luck and like the best cards came. But it still sounds ludicrous to me. But anyhow, so yeah, anyhow, the Vegas Showdown semifinal. Also, I just don't think I play that great. Slash, don't quite have the flips. Slash, whatever. Oh, and this is my DFL of the week. Here it is. Here it is. I do DFL this semifinal, which makes sense. Again, I don't fill my map. I don't connect. If the game goes another round and I can buy a theater, I almost win though. So like again, looking back on this, I think this is my other mistake. I think I thought that I had to play for a bigger score than I actually did. I was aiming for like, oh, I have to map fill and get bonuses, income, and like do this other shit. And it's like, no, 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 no. Like even with my mistakes, I'm only 13 points out of the lead. So like I was stretching to go further than I needed to go to actually win this game. And I think if I just don't buy this fancy restaurant and I like just fill the casino section slash setup connection itself, I'm probably okay. Alternatively, I like just don't buy this fancy restaurant and I make sure I have $52 for the theater as soon as it flips and I just slam a theater down right here. And if I slam a theater down right here, I end the game with 1 more partial diamond point. I end the game with 12 points of theater. I end the game with 3 points of connection. I do end the game with a bit less money points, so like maybe I'm not actually quite winning. I'd probably be at like 48 in that world. But I mean, what I did was not right, but it's I do think I need slightly more experience at a table of all good opponents. And I need to force myself to actually play a little bit of income strats against them because I don't think I'm very good at these map fill games anymore and realizing what their priorities are. I'm a little too focused on like finding the good deals on fancy tiles and building up diamond points, and I don't think that goes well with a map fill game. So Stone Age semifinals, we wind up bidding. I bid for first seat. In first seat, I get solid stuff. I do again have some really efficient huts at the start of round 9. The 1 to 7 hut flips, giving me what feels like a reasonable chance. But the GM Dave, it is Dave, right? I'm gonna look at the score sheet just to make sure I'm not crazy. Yeah, it's Dave. Okay, sorry. All of a sudden I was blanking. The GM Dave is in second seat and he plays very well. And he rolls very well. The first several rounds, he is rolling insane. He's averaging over a 4 the first couple rounds, I'm pretty sure. He dumps a lot of early resources that he's getting off Christmas cards and his strong rolls, and he he has like something like 60 or something like 60-ish points after like 4 or 5 rounds after building a couple early huts that just let him convert a lot of resources, which is very spooky. He's also getting a good number of culture cards because other people don't really want them. One player on our table is belligerently starving. They're just growing their family a lot and starving a lot, and I don't think it's very good. It's actually kind of frustrating to me that they're going for it because in round one of the double people cards already went, and in like rounds 2 and 3, some of the double hut cards already went. So like, there's only like 2 good cards left in the deck for starvation, which is the other double person card and the triple hut card. And with that few cards left in the deck, you're just like never gonna win going heavy starvation. So you cannot belligerently push grow and push starvation this hard. And by starving so much in the early to mid game, you're like giving everybody else freer access to tools and food. And so they're gonna just beat you. I do partly block people growth pretty heavily against people that are trying to starve like this because it's the other way to make sure they don't win. Also, people are a little more valuable if there's going to be extra food floating around because you can buy some culture cards that have a crap ton of food on them that also sometimes the starvation player is like just not contesting, and then the other players also don't really care about them because they have too much food. But yeah, anyhow, starvation player was like no threat. The player in front of me also was like just not taking the right cards, so it was pretty much between Dave and I. For most of the early game and mid game, I thought he was ahead. By the late game, I thought I had a chance when the 1 to 7 hut flipped. And Dave also took a really aggressive late line, but it turns out he still had enough leeway even when he missed it and the game went another round. He winds up beating me by like 7 still after we take out the bids. So sadly, I don't even get 5th or 6th place here. I think I wind up 7th or 8th, but this is a fairly close semifinal loss in Stone Age. It's Stone Age. He rolled well. It happens. He played well enough too. But yeah, this was a bit of a bummer. So this was not my 3rd straight semifinal that I wound up losing here this morning. This one I thought I had a pretty good shot in. Based on how my opponents play, I would claim I actually had a 50% shot. Maybe 50 is a little too high, but something like 48% shot. Like this game was really between Dave and I after a couple rounds, in my opinion. Um, I don't think the other players were making moves that gave themselves winning chances. Um, but we wind up in the Arc Nova semis next. I wind up pulling Andrew's table. Again, I was very happy that like my crew of friends all got here, but there were 5 of us, so somehow we were going to get paired together. And it turned out we were actually seated at 3 different tables. One table had none of us, which is also like not that shocking of an outcome. So Robbie wound up playing Mike and beating him. Sean winds up winning his table. At my table, after like half the game, I'm pretty convinced this game is between Andrew and I. I think we're just like pretty clearly better than our opponents. So again, another semifinal where I think I kind of had like a 50% chance is a little too high, but like Andrew and I probably win that table 80 to 90% of the time between one or two of us. So I had pretty like after 1 year, I've put myself in position where I have like really legit shots of winning the Arc Nova semifinal. And I have pretty good shots of I have very good shots to take 2nd place, which sometimes comes with 5th or 6th place laurels and a new plaque. Unfortunately, Andrew rolls up with arguably the 2 best cards for the setup. We're playing Research Institute as the map. Oops, I didn't rotate this picture, sorry. We're playing Research Institute map. Ugh, sorry. Research Institute map, which is the one that has the free university on it, so it tends to have slightly more science symbols. Also, in a 4-player game, Science Library is just kind of one of the most insane cards to open with because every science tag anybody plays is $2, plus the thing gets you a point when you play it, and it gives you an endgame point. But yeah, Andrew first actions the Science Library, so I already feel behind when that happens. But I find like a lot of cool stuff. I have a cool Expert on America's opening, but it goes really unfortunate when Second Seat decides to hypno Andrew and cause a break. Fourth Seat also decided to break 5 because they were hoping to wheel an animals action after they broke 5 in order to play jumping and cause the break. I think this is really risky for them because if anybody else decides to even like cards action or cause the break, they don't get to play their animals before the first break and they have to discard cards and they lose out the income from those animals, which is pretty punitive. But Fourth Seat decides to cause the break, putting pressure on us. Andrew gets to play his animals, but yeah, second seat plays animals into Hypno into Cause Break. So both me and third seat, I'm in third seat and fourth seat. We both get caught having to discard cards, not having animals down, so not having the extra income boost. And so that was pretty brutal. I still fight back pretty well from there, though. I get a lot done. I wind up winning the race to both the 5 CP and 8 CP rewards on the track, which were pretty good. I don't remember if it was $10 in a partner zoo. One of them was a partner zoo. I don't seem to have a picture of what the other one was. It might have been just 2 rep, but anyhow, I get good rewards off the track, partly through a release of patents and a guerrilla field research. I get to rush 8 rep, which gets me my second worker, so that was pretty good. I had a second worker early. I get a full petting zoo, so it doesn't really matter that I don't have 2 size. Like, you'll look at my map, I don't have 2 size reward unlocked yet at all. I don't think I ever take 2 size, and I never upgrade build, which is a pretty rare combo, but I had enough release projects, plus this petting zoo was very efficient on the build actions, plus just the relatively low money I was dealing with. But yeah, Andrew's science library is kind of too much. He also winds up busting out a sun bear, and it's a sun bear in a game where the base projects are Asia habitats and preds. So sun bear is arguably one of the better freaking things. And on Research Institute, he doesn't even need the Asia Partner Zoo to play it. So I'm gonna argue starting hand imbalances honestly probably decided this game, but Andrew and I are basically equivalent skilled, and his starting hand is definitely better than me, so it's not shocking that he gets the win over me. I take a second place. Sadly, it's not a particularly close second. Andrew beats me by too much. And I wind up placing 7th in Arc Nova after all of the end of this. Andrew finished too high. You're blaming him. I mean, I kind of agree. The 5 to 8 seeds was where it's at, kind of. That's your biggest complaint with Arc Nova, and you think it needs a starting draft. I completely agree. It's actually baffling to me that Arc Nova does not have a starting draft as a competitive default. I argued with this with some of my friends later in the week. Some people are a little dubious about it, but it just so naturally feels like it should have a starting draft. Like, Andrew at least is first picking in the science library and having to pass a Sunbear to somebody else. Everybody winds up with better starting hands by doing this, to be fair. Like, everybody winds up having sponsors they want to play and animals they want to play, more likely. But, like, it is one of the things that's annoying. You only have 8 starting cards in Arc Nova, and, like, sometimes you get dealt, like, a bunch of animals and a bunch of unplayable animals, and you don't have sponsors to, like, leverage early. And, like, those hands can be very difficult to navigate. And then other times you get hands with, like, so many sponsors and, like, no playable animals. And, like, honestly, that can be okay, because lots of sponsors can be very good. But like a draft would just really help even people's starting hands out and give I think it would add to the skill expression of the game for sure. But anyhow, there is no starting draft. I think Andrew at least partially beats me because of certainly he has a better opening hand than me. There's just no doubt about that. Like I would bid quite a few points to have Andrew's opening hand instead of my own. I probably also didn't actually bid enough for seat order. I tried to like figure out some stats by looking at a bunch of our recent games about how much seed order matters, but it's unclear to me seed order actually matters that much. But in games where it matters, it does kind of seem to matter. And also, the thing that I think I am more compelled by after discussions is that just due to the way Arc Nova works, games are actually not that close that often. So it's not actually that punitive to pay a bunch of points because if you're winning, you're often winning by quite a bit because you kind of break away and you win. Like there are some games that are close, but it's not that often. So I also think I think I made an error by not bidding enough. But your final was nuts on the bidding. I agree. You've tried a starting draft over 80 games and it felt that it made the rich get richer far more than balanced hands. You like the concept, but it needs more testing. Yeah, I mean that was a slight concern. Is that everybody's hands get better slash people can definitely like first pick release projects and hit the release projects so much more often. And so it might be too much of an issue to draft opening hands, but anyhow, it definitely sucks when like Andrew's opening hand has like one of the best animals for the setup and the best sponsor. Uh, and I am combating him with mediocre animals and an expert on the Americas. It's like, okay, sure. Like maybe. Like I don't have terrible stuff, but it's definitely worse. But draft 6, keep 4. Yeah, maybe something like that. I truly don't know the answer. Um, maybe no release projects in the initial draft, but that's very weird too, right? Like release projects are part of the game. I don't know. Whatever. It feels worth trying, but Andrew played well. He got to the finals. I got 7th overall, so I'm right out of laurels. And I mean, after 1 year, I'm pretty happy with 7th, to be honest. But I'm also quite bummed to not have a plaque, to not have made the finals. It was a bit hard watching 3 of my friends from my training group make the finals, but it was also really cool because it's like, okay, collectively our crew showed up and we took 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 7th, and 8th in the tournament. So we took 5 of the top 8 slots in the tournament. And none of us lost. The only people, like, only the finalists lost to Rich Miller. None of the rest of us actually lost to anybody besides each other. So, like, collectively, we beat the field pretty conclusively, but we are basically all about as good as each other. And unfortunately, yeah, like, I just ran into Andrew and he got me. So I'm still bummed about this one, but you think you'd like an opening hand of like 5 animals and 3 sponsors, keep 4, but how to deal with 2 separate decks at that point? That's annoying. Mike technically lost to Eric. Oh, did he? I thought did Mike not take 2nd place? I thought Mike took 2nd, but maybe he didn't. Sorry. Maybe Mike took 3rd at your table. I didn't even realize that, but whatever. But yeah, looping back to the schedule, at this point in the week, I was pretty sure my shot at console was pretty much dashed. And indeed, I'm pretty sure my shot at console was dashed. The Arc Nova semifinal was my 8th semifinal of the week, which, first off, already is really a good week, to be honest. But that is. I have played in 8 semifinals at this point in the week, and I have gone first, second, third, and then a couple of fourths and fifths in Amun Ray and Vegas Showdown at 5-player tables. So yeah, going 1 for 8 in my semifinals is historically pretty low. On average, I think I should have made more final tables, but again, I lost quite a few close games, and arguably 1 or 2 of them I didn't play my best in. So the console dream was pretty dead, but I continue on. That evening is Moon Colony Bloodbath. I'm GMing Moon Colony Bloodbath. We play 2 heats of Moon Colony Bloodbath back to back into semis into finals. The tournament runs pretty well. I intended to run the tournament continuously, meaning I was just going to start the next rounds when the previous round had ended. But that was not very clear on the spreadsheet schedule. It was listed in the preview, but how many people read the previews? So I want to clean that up for future years because there were definitely people showing up at the start of the hour for the second heat, and we were already like half an hour into playing the games, and they were a bit disappointed, and I understand that. The other thing that was tricky is I thought the format was going to work pretty well. I was going to play 2 heats and advance all winners to the semifinals. But because of like the huge increase in turnout, and I did expect more turnout, other people were like, "Well, you should have expected a ton of turnout." I'm like, I mean, yeah, I did expect more turnout. I didn't expect as much turnout as we got. We got so much turnout that my format is also a bit of an issue because I can't actually take all winners. I have to turn some single game winners away, which is kind of brutal because that means that you actually had to play both rounds, which means that they're not even really heats anymore, and I always dislike that. So we'll have to explore other formats for the future. It's possible this game shouldn't be continuous anymore, and I should just turn it into like a 3-heat game. And whether or not that 3 heats is like you cut straight to semis, and so you need like 2 wins or a first second, or if it's a game that runs 3 heats and cuts to a quarterfinals, I don't know the answer, but probably have to explore stuff like that. Um, but anyhow, my first game of Moon Colony goes pretty smooth. I wind up at a table that I feel pretty comfortable at, and indeed, even without hitting huge combo cards early, I'm able to just outplay this table. I do eventually get some like kind of cool Lunar Crete Moon Hotel thing going on, but I did not wind up with anything. I did not wind up with a lot of what I think are like some of the best cards, best combos where I would have really crushed with. But I didn't need them here. Got a nice heat win. So that was at least nice to just kind of get to flex some skill in Moon Colony, since the rest of the day had gone so dubiously. Oh, this was actually the second heat. Whoops. I was actually pretty down because the first heat I wound up also not drawing very well, and Ray Wolf got me by like 2 points. It was very close. I had a lot of different like could have's, or like toward the end game there was a bunch of stuff that obviously could have worked, but anyhow, I nearly lost. But I got the win here, so first second I at least advanced to the semifinal round. The semifinal round, the table is quite good. I am in a pretty good spot with some sweet organ bank restock combos, and I also wind up with a lunar crete factory again, plus a reactor, so like most of my buildings are $5 less, so that's a lot of how I'm generating money. But Max also has really good restock combos, and with regular shipments as the twist card, restock combos are really good because you just get a free restock action every time we go through the deck. We both have organ banks running too, so organ banks with restock combos is just so many colonists. So we're both pulling ahead, and it's just wildly close, and it kind of just comes down to when the game ends. But anyhow, the game ends when I have 34 and Max has 33. So Max winds up getting 6th place laurels, and I do advance to another finals at least. So that takes us to 2 for 9 in our semifinals, and I do make another finals for the week. So that felt good. In the finals, somebody fairly early on adds a innovation to the deck, which allows you to discard cards for a build action. And I have really good card draw early. I have a lot of blue cards that help boost me. I, at one point, have something like 23 cards in hand or something insane. Is Max from the Greensboro group? Yes. Quite good is an understatement, maybe. But anyhow, I wind up with like something crazy, like 20 plus cards in my hand, because I'm just drawing 5, and I just draw a bunch of cards for a couple actions in a row, because I really want to figure out what my game is, and I'm not hitting any good money gen. I'm really hunting for recycling. If I find a recycling, I win the game. Is going to be my claim, because with innovation in the deck, recycling allows me to add a gardens to the deck, and it means that it's generating like $5 a cycle at least, plus it's generating food, and it's turning all my extra cards into stuff. But I don't find a recycling, and instead I have to find other money gen combos. I wind up finding a bit of a food combo with a potato farm and like a market, and then later I'm able to use that money to play double reactor, and then I use double reactor to just play very expensive buildings. I play like a complex, I play a bunker, and I have a dome queued up at the end of the game. But sadly, Raid dies just before my dome comes into play. If the dome comes into play, I think I'm winning, or maybe I'm still losing, but at least I'm second. But instead, the game ends just in the time where I can. If the game continues for a few more rounds, I think I have enough strong buildings that I win. But the arc is just right for Sam Wolf, although Sam also has a strong building queued up, so he might still beat me. But Sam Dent is pretty out of stuff at this point. So if I can just play, well, if I play the dome, the game's over. By the way, because there's round 13 is already in the deck, or like we would have hit the instruction manual. But Ray dies just before I can actually have an action to play the dome, and I wind up third, which is a pretty reasonable result. Like, I now have back-to-back third places in this game that people are increasingly playing and are definitely competitive. I feel I'm pretty dang good at this game, but other players have got pretty good over the last year. And Sam Wolf did admittedly get to play double clone banks, plus he found the recycling. So clone banks are really good. Recycling's really good. I don't feel I found the key cards until kind of too late. But I also might have just missed the better combos, and I might have misplayed my combos in the mid game. I did decide to play the second innovation after playing both reactors, but it's a little dubious because I don't actually have that good of card draw anymore, because I was forced to tear my card draw down before I could build enough other buildings. So in hindsight, I also think that this second I think playing the second innovation was probably wrong and cost me too many cards that I no longer actually had. I don't think I don't think I judged that arc of the game correct, so that's a bummer. But come on, gotta talk about the dual father son combo. I mean, that part's true. I was facing dual father son combos in the finals. So that was pretty cool. Both Keith and his son were there, and Ray and his son were there. But And the Suns beat the Dads. The Suns beat the Dads, but the Suns took 1-2. Very close game, but congrats to Sam on the win. It was a well played table, but yeah, I'm really sad. If I had drawn that freaking recycling, if I could have just drawn that recycling, I think. But again, I don't want to blame the game entirely on cards because Shadow like always finds a path, and I suspect I missed. I suspect I missed various paths, but my draws also definitely could have been better. And if I draw better, I do think I win the game pretty smoothly. But alas. All right, so we're on to Friday. So yes, okay, we're getting toward the end of the stream. But God, yeah, this is gonna be almost a 3-hour recap video. But oh well. I also clearly am forgetting to take pictures of my games anymore, so sorry. This is Race for the Galaxy Heats. This Race for the Galaxy, David Platnick rolls up with a sick development combo and just spams developments on us and crushes us, and there's not much else to say. The second Race for the Galaxy, I sort of have a development combo with Interstellar Bank and like Bankers, and I eventually play Galactic Fed, but I just don't have very good card draw, so yeah, eventually Galactic Fed, but I just don't find enough other devs and the game ends. And I also take second place. So that's 2 more second places on our tally for the Heats. It is time for the Santa Fe Finals. After that, we had rescheduled, which was nice. I do really thank the finalists for rescheduling. That allowed me to play the Arc Nova semis. I was gonna have to drop Arc Nova semis for the finals otherwise. So Andrew has the table set up really pretty for us. And here's the finalists. Andrew's running the game. We have Elaine, Shiv, Rob, and myself. I do pull first seat, which many people think is kind of bad because everybody else takes the 2X's on turn 2 and you don't have control of them. But I don't think it's that big of an issue if your opening hand is okay-ish. And my opening hand is okay enough that I don't think it's costing me that badly to be first seat. Oh, this is the other Race for the Galaxy score sheet where I do have second place and it's relatively close, but Winton gets us. I do have a lot of pictures of this final of the Santa Fe, and I'm going to do a lot more analysis with it at some point. I really kind of want to almost recreate the game and go through it and really analyze the turns. Partly because I think it'd be fun, and partly I think it could maybe help other people that do want to learn how to play Santa Fe Rails better to see and like discuss some of what I'm thinking and doing during the game. But to go through it fast, I play an early San Antonio in round 2. I play a Phoenix. So these are pretty solid cities to have early. And the Yellow Train even makes it to Phoenix, which is cool. The Yellow Train even makes it all the way out to San Diego, which is kind of rare. In round 2 or round 3, I play a Denver, which is generically pretty good. The Yellow Train makes it to Denver, which is also not shocking. I do get the Blue Train to touch San Antonio, which I think is important for my game. Round 4, I must play a doubler finally in order to shuffle my hand and manipulate some trains around. Unfortunately, green is like way over. We do push green way over here. I do remember this. I do use a doubler, and I get to connect green to Los Angeles for some money, and other people connect it up into San Fran and Sacramento because of cards they have. But it's because I just drew a San Francisco off my doubler, so I get to play San Fran next turn, which is nice. I get to join Rob San Fran. But yeah, I'm not doing good about making Denver good. Round 5, I play the San Francisco as discussed. We continue to push trains around. Round 6, I get an LA down along with that San Francisco. This is pretty huge. Well, it turns out pretty huge. The LA San Francisco is like, okay, if we can push some trains into that area, I'm going to be doing very well. And the red train starts getting pushed towards all of my stuff. All of my Phoenix, San Fran, LA. Other people do have some of these cities, but I have all of them, and people are helping push over toward them. I do also get to play second San Antonio, and I do get the white trains finally move into San Antonio, and I'm able to push the black trains into San Antonio also. So the double San Antonios take me quite a bit of effort, but also are pretty good for me. The red train does wind up getting pushed into LA. It doesn't get it. It unfortunately doesn't make it to San Francisco. I don't think. But the one off Sacramento easily makes San Fran. So, or no, red trains do still have play. Maybe it does make San Fran. San Fran might be a triple by the end. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, red train does make San Fran. So San Fran's a 21. Blue Train also makes it to LA, so now LA is also a triple. So these are very good cards for me. I wind up using a doubler here in whatever this is, round 8 or 9. Um, at this point in the game, I'm sure it's between Rob and I. Um, Rob also has pretty good cities going on here. He has the Sacramento and San Fran, and he has some other good stuff over kind of in this area where there's a bunch of trades, and he's manipulating stuff into Amarillo and stuff. Both Shiv and Elaine, I think, are behind at this point. Their cities are not quite as developed. They have some of this kind of northern area that's not getting developed, and they don't have quite as much money. Rob does have the most money. He's been very good about manipulating his turns to generate cash, and I am worried that I'm going to be second again because it looks like Rob's winning at a glance. I wound up playing to Seattle because this trade got up to Seattle, so this is just a 7 point play. Not particularly good, but it's fine. The thing that's really happening during this round that's very good for me is the white train has a ton of pieces left, and it has only one branch line left. And eventually that branch line gets burned, and white is eventually fated that it just has to get out here. It just like has to follow these open lines all the way to Phoenix, and that it might go to LA or Vegas, but it just has to go through all these cities that I want it to go through because of some other manipulation going on to make sure that the only path it has is to go forward. Um, I wind up playing a Duluth late. The Duluth is only 6 points, but I'm really just running out of city cards to play, as is everybody. Rob is playing second Amarillo or something, or no, he plays a 2x this round. So there's very little to do, and I think this might be the last round of the game because everybody has to play white. There must be one more round. I play an El Paso. Yeah, I play a late El Paso for 15 because the white train has to come through, so that's nice. But yeah, this is I think the last round. Then yeah, the white train has to get pushed, and the white train. I'm able to do a cool thing, where I'm the one that gets to play this white train, and Elaine has like a doubler going into LA, and she has the other LA, and like I just look at the points, and it's like, oh, I can clearly let Elaine get the like points for going to LA because yeah, she moves ahead of me because she gets a bunch of money, but both of us get the LA points and move quite ahead of Rob and Shiv. And so, like, that was a nice position to be able to leverage of, like, just glancing to be like, oh, I can totally give Elaine these points just based on where we're at, and I'll still definitely be ahead. Um, I'm still worried that Rob has the game because Rob has, like, a pretty big cash advantage on me. And again, at my quick glance of just counting cities, both Rob and I have 9 cities. So, like, we're both at 9 cities, and Rob has like $15 on me. So I need my cities to be worth like quite a bit more than Rob's, which is always a bit spooky. Uh, but we add them up, and I actually beat him by 12. Okay, he only has $12 in money, it turns out. But so I mean, my cities were quite a bit better than Rob's. It turns out, but yeah, I was spooked. But anyhow, I am the Santa Fe Rails champion. I win this. I win the bottle of maple syrup. Thanks, Andrew. And I win this game. And that feels great. After a bunch of years of being so close, finally taking this tournament down feels good. Um, and yeah, I've had a really good run in Santa Fe Rails, and I don't like I say I also still am a little unsure how much skill versus luck there is in drawing good cities and getting good cities versus how much skill there is in manipulating the trains to score. It's definitely some of both, but my results for this event are very good, and I am increasingly convinced that I'm supposed to just be calling Santa Fe Rails as my team game. Although I'm sure as soon as I switch, I'm going to start getting stuffed, but alas. All right, speeding up a little. Whoops. I have a Gizia Heat next. This Gizia Heat's pretty dreamy. I get a bunch of quarries early. I get the once per round construction crew. I get the upriver card. I get solid enough food, so I just get to build a lot of shit and do what I want to do. And this is just a clean win. Uh, I do not have a score sheet of the Agizia Heat, but I get the Agizia Heat win, so that's good work. Then there's a Concordia Heat. This Concordia table's good. Andy Lotto winds up making the semis. I think Jonathan Town is an alternate for the semis. I think Chad also was an alternate or made the semis. But as you can see, I got a pretty sweet heat win here by a pretty dang good margin. I had been studying a bunch of Concordia online. I've been watching the best players' games, and I've been practicing coming to WBC. So I was kind of hoping to like leverage this like newfound knowledge and tech in order to win the tournament. And this was definitely a promising result to beat three pretty good Concordia players by just a very comfortable margin. To just be like, okay, I might be onto something. Um, but yeah. Second Agizia Heat is kind of even better than the first one. The second Agizia Heat, I have 5 Sphinx cards that I think are all scoring. I wind up with the most quarries. I wind up with the draw extra cards to Sphinx. I still wind up with the Upriver card. I wind up with tons of green food. I have great crew strength, and the great crew strength coupled with the great rocks and all the other stuff means I just build a shit ton. I get okay graves tiles. And this is just another, like, big, not that big, but just another very nice Agizia win. Nicole and Steve play quite well. Mark is learning the game, so that's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, nice, two nice Agizia wins to put myself into the semis for that as well. Chad made the semis, but Chris almost didn't let him in because they messed up the Heat 2 sheets. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, so anyhow, yeah, so chat, I think that means that all of the people I played at my Heat were basically semifinalists or almost semifinalists. So, like, I was at a very good Heat table and I won pretty comfortably. So, anyhow, pretty promising stuff there. But I forgot to mention my friend of the year helped do the St. Pete demo. I did forget to mention that. Thank you very much, Robbie, for covering the St. Pete demo because I was greeting a Stone Age Heat that was not going fast enough. So huge help to that. You will get shouted out in the. You will definitely get a shout out in the event report. I play a Heat of Puerto Rico next. The Heat of Puerto Rico does not go well. The one of the players is a bit less experienced at Puerto Rico, which is totally fine. But Locke is sitting after them and gets way too many corn plantations, and so his shipping game is pretty insane. He also gets the first coffee up and going. I'm second seat. Jack Wolf claims second seed is actually good if you play it right. I'm sure I don't play it right, or at least according to him, I don't play it right. But also, I'm going to claim a fourth seat is getting handed a bunch of corn plantations that they probably are not supposed to be able to get. You probably also are losing, so that's how it goes. But yeah, I wind up with a, like kind of a cool Puerto Rico board, but I'm sure Jack's gonna yell at me for taking a small market in C2, and he's probably right. So whatever. I don't play Puerto Rico enough to feel that I'm actually great at the game, and uh, I also think Locke got a few gifts, so whatever. Next heat of Acquire. I need to get at least a second in this game in order to advance to the Acquire semis. I am able to get second place, but this game is very sketch. I feel very good about how I played this one. Platnik thought him and I were completely out of the game because the first merger went to the other two, and like for a while they were the only ones that had money. But I would claim both of our opponents made some misplays and let us, certainly let me have a bit of life back in the game. And getting a bit of life allowed me to buy just the right companies and manipulate a bunch of stuff that by the end of the game, I'm actually not that far out of it. I think John played. I think John missed his opportunities to lock up some big majorities, and I was able to sneak in on him. I also think Cliff didn't correctly block out some of the like secondary and majority payouts that he probably could have or should have. Uh, Although that's also like arguing that he was supposed to like realize that I was doing better and start blocking me to make sure he was first. But anyhow, getting the second place here was nice, and getting to advance was in Acquire was kind of a cool result. I'm gonna flip back to my schedule real quick here. So the schedule by the end of the week got a bit weird. I actually wasn't playing Diplomacy. I thought I was just gonna play for max semifinals, but because the Race for the Galaxy heats, I did not win either of them, and because the Puerto Rico heat I didn't win, I suddenly looked at the schedule and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be able to play the Puerto Rico semifinal or the race semifinal. So suddenly I could play Diplomacy, and because I already got my Agizia wins, it's like, well, I could just play Diplomacy round 2, and I probably could play Diplomacy round 3. unless I wind up in the Inquirer finals. And it's like, well, okay, sweet. So I actually got to add diplomacy back in at the schedule after I thought this was going to be the year I wasn't playing. Wait, how did Jack's Puerto Rico call go? He took fourth in the finals, so I still get to yell at him, as my opinion. But he did at least put laurels up in Puerto Rico, so there's a little bit of both of us are right. So yes, diplomacy stories. Yeah, so diplomacy. I do wind up playing diplomacy on the final day. Uh this diplomacy game is interesting. I pull Russia, and my southern and we also don't have enough people, so Italy is in civil disobedience this game. Meaning nobody's playing Italy. Their centers just stay there, and if you're able to support an attack in, you get in, and they just disband their units. So in the south, both Turkey and Austria don't really seem friendly with each other. They both seem to want to work with me against the other. Slash, Austria kind of just wants to be given breathing room to go attack Italy. And I'm like, oh, great. So Turkey sort of wants to go attack Austria. Makes enough sense. And they're also cool if I go into the Black Sea and get Romania early. If I just come back out and it's like, okay, sure. But yeah, so basically my opponents leave me alone in the south mostly. I don't have that much units in the south. If these guys ever like coordinated and attacked me, I frankly actually don't have enough power in the south to stop them. But they both thought they were better off working with me to advance, which is partly good negotiation and partly, I know, a little bit of luck. I don't know how you want to claim it. In the north, I'm able to play a very aggressive northern game, which I think is very good for Russia if you can get away with it. Um, Germany lets me into Sweden if I help block out England. Germany is encouraging France, myself, and them to like aggressively take England out of the corner. I'm generally for this. So I take Sweden, I move up armies into the north early, I build a second northern fleet. In 1902 though, Germany builds two fleets, meaning they have two armies and three fleets. Uh, Not the classic Turkey-Russia combo. No, we did not run a juggernaut here. Um, Although, frankly, it probably would have worked. But I admittedly wasn't actually helping Turkey all that much in the early game. I eventually started helping them, but I played this pretty greedy, I'm not going to lie. I basically let both Turkey and Austria kind of fight each other and stall out against each other and not really directly help either of them. Um, Eventually, one of them did ask for some more direct help, and I kind of did offer it, but I was not very proactive with either of them of being like, oh, this turn we could really do this. I kind of was letting them like work out tactics and ask them what they wanted, and neither of them were really asking me for much, and it's like, that's cool. I'm not going to do much. I'll just leave you. I'll let you have your room to do what you want to do. But that also meant I had the room to do what I wanted to do in the north, and I had a lot of gains in the north. Because, yeah, anyhow, Germany builds two fleets. I think this is a huge tactical mistake. They wind up with three fleets, only two armies. As soon as this happens, I immediately talk to France, and I'm like, hey, if we just send some armies toward the middle, Germany just doesn't have enough armies to hold their centers. And we also got Austria to send one army up because I was still pretty friendly with them. And I'm like, hey, Austria, if you head up, like, we'll help you into like Munich, and like you'll get some gains out of this too. So anyhow, yeah, there's just too many armies. Germany can't hold all this stuff. This is toward the end of 1903. I had kicked them out of Denmark. They kept. Oh no, this must be the end of 1902 because they still have two armies and three fleets. But anyhow, they're gonna lose some home centers here. They're losing Munich. They're losing Denmark and stuff. They're gonna have to do a bunch of disbands in a sec. They decide to disband all of their armies and they just use their fleets to like annoy me. But I could just build another northern fleet, and like England also wound up building an army and disbanding a fleet, which I think is a tactical mistake too. It makes it so that England was like totally impossible to conquer quickly, but it also made it totally impossible for England to actually threaten anybody with a single fleet. Like France could just sit in the channel. Eventually we take the northern sea by force, and like England just has to sit on their island waiting to die. So it gave France and I a lot of flexibility to just like take out the Germans and then eventually take out the English. which is mostly what we do. So to speed along, Germany's down to these 2 fleets to just kind of annoy me, but I have 2 armies up here. France has multiple armies. We have the north, like again, we have all these northern fleets now against uh, England, and we just get to pick apart England and Germany, while the south is still kind of just a total cluster. Turkey is starting to like have some gains against Austria. And at this point, I had committed to work. I did sneakily go to the Black Sea to give myself options if I wanted to stab Turkey and like go for a mega game. But I decided that I'm already having a mega game with gains in the north and gains in England, and France is helping me a bunch. That I'm like, I'm gonna just take out Austria with Turkey's help. Turkey's gonna get to like 7 centers, but I'm gonna get to like 12, and France is gonna be at like 10, and I'll just win the game. It goes slightly better than that for me. France agrees to let me have Edinburgh, even though they probably should have asked for that themselves, but they said they would take the other 2. And yeah, I just wind up with like all the German home centers except Munich, and eventually France also gets Holland. But the game ends a year or so later. Basically, Austria gets eliminated. Yeah, here's the game end. Austria gets almost eliminated. They actually still control Tunis with a single fleet. I don't know. Their fleet must have got pulled off the board here, but they control Tunis with a single fleet. England still ends the game with 1 unit. Italy still, again, Italy and civil disobedience has the 1 unit. But yeah, Turkey's just kind of trapped. They had with like 7 centers. France ends with like 10, but I had with like 14, which is just a huge Russia game. How many purposely disordered units did he run? I did purposely. I did purpose. Robbie, I don't like to answer this question because I don't necessarily want my opponents to know this, but I did purposely. I did purposely fuck up one order. I was supposed to give a support. I was supposed to give Turkey a support that I bluffed that I failed to give, but I didn't want to give Turkey the support at that moment and felt that I didn't need to and felt that I would get away with it, and I did. Um, but it is a little. I don't love to lie like that during a game of diplomacy, and I probably shouldn't have, but I admit I sort of was. This game I was sort of running off of the everything is working, so let's just keep pushing our luck, and nobody punished me, and so I just had a huge game. I actually debate. This is at the end of 1905. We have enough time to play through 1906, and I debate if I'm supposed to push for the solo. But being at 14 centers in this position, it's very hard to see how I get 4 centers. Because as soon as I play on, both France and Turkey are good enough to realize that I'm going for the solo, and they're gonna stop. Like they're gonna immediately switch to stop me as hard as possible. So if I turn down the draw vote at the start of 1906, they immediately know why. They know that I'm going for the solo, and they're gonna stop me. And I just don't see how I pick up 4 centers in 1 year. And I decide that that is pushing my luck too far. If I go for that, I think I make them both like pretty damn pissed. Whereas both of them are like kind of contented to take second and third here. You know, they're not thrilled, but they both are like, well, they're definitely not winning, and both of them kind of accept there's no real way for them to do better. And so they're happy enough with how it ended. So we all agree to the draw. Lying in diplomacy, inconceivably. Oh come on, that's the game. I mean, the thing is, the diplomacy field at WBC is kind of small enough, and lying is not really the game. Uh, the whole point of the game is like being able to actually like set up alliances and work with people. I think it's actually kind of the misnomer about diplomacy. Like to be a really good diplomacy player, you have to convince people to work with you. And people don't like working with people that like constantly lie and backstab. So you have to really like use your opportunities to like manipulate lies and backstabs at like key points. If you're gonna backstab somebody, you better be sure that you're getting into a very strong position because of it, and that it's like very much correct for you. It has to be that the opponent left themselves into like a really tactical error position. I mean, people will respect the lies, and it's not like you never lie. But I think lies. I think some people definitely lie way too much and just get like people will not work with you anymore. So there is a real element to diplomacy of like actually building up trust and all of that. So it's lied at the right times. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is true. Yes, but or you do it with "oops, messed up, my bad." Well, again, you can only pull that off so often. So like, at a certain point, it becomes pretty obvious that like you don't actually like at a certain point, it becomes pretty clear that you don't actually like misorder very often, and then you only are misordering when it like hurts your ally, and it's like, good try, but I don't buy it. But so anyhow, yeah, I wind up with a huge Russia. I take I play this round. After this round, I'm in the tournament lead. This is a huge Russia. 14 set of Russia is very big. It's one of the bigger single game scores I've seen in years, but they do take your best two scores. So I'm hoping to play the round later tonight. Um, Up next is the Concordia semifinals. To be honest, this table, both Rich Meyer and Rob Kircher played this very well. The fourth is definitely a bit newer to Concordia. I think if the fourth player was actually a bit better, I probably do win the game because I think it hurts Kircher more than it hurts me because I think that player buys a couple of cards that Kircher probably wants. And I think Kircher needed the extra turn or two to kind of catch up to me. Whereas I was stalling out just a little bit at the end of the game. I had slightly awkward action sequences right at the end. But yeah, obviously, given what I just said, I don't actually win this game. I sadly lose this game by a single point, 113 to 114. Rich Meyer is a bit further back at 104, 107. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, the fourth player is quite out of it. Yeah, like I said, I truly think I win this game if the table's slightly better, which is kind of awkward. But it's at the same time, I think I messed up at one point slightly. Again, I've kind of like I've studied these top player games and I've learned how to I've learned how to mimic them, but I don't have enough reps with them still to feel that I'm as sharp as the best player. And yeah, Kircher just did a lot of good stuff. Kircher got to end the game too. So like to be fair, if my left-hand opponent actually has a single tool on his board at the end of the game, I also win because they would have been able to buy the last card, and Kircher doesn't have an efficient enough final move to like win. So like if my left-hand opponent could just end, like if my left-hand opponent could buy the final card, they could win. And I was trying to find a way to set that up, and it just wasn't like it annoyingly just wasn't possible. It was not possible to buy a combo of cards such that my left-hand opponent would actually end the game, and Kircher was like always going to be the one to be able to end the game. So that's just how it goes. But it was a bit of a bummer because yeah, I was really hoping Concordia was going to go better for me this year, but I do get fifth place laurels, so not a bad Saturday result. And it also means that I get to play the Acquire semifinals. If I had won Concordia, I would be in the finals and not played Acquire semis. So again, this is part of why I have so many semifinals this year. If I had made a few more finals, I would have had to cut some semis. But the Acquire semis, all 7 companies get formed pretty early. And hilariously, this is the only 7 companies that get formed all game. We have very late mergers, and by the time the mergers are happening, no companies actually have room to get reformed. This game stalls for a long time. I wind up getting 4 free shares, and I bought my way into a lot of good spots. So I was in a good position because of that. But when a game stalls this long, it kind of just comes down to who actually gets to like play the merge tile and get one of their companies merged. And the answer is this very central towers is the one I invested in. Other people were fighting for more of this stuff on the outskirts, but especially in these stall-heavy games, like people tend to have to play tiles to grow crap towards stuff in the middle. And indeed, towers is the first that gets absorbed, and so I get the big payout first, and I'm able to use that to buy up lots of other crap and trade into stuff. And by the end of the game, there's all these various companies and safe companies. Hilariously, Cliff actually had a really good pithy statement for this game, but at like for most of the game, I think actually the entire game, I think for the entire game we had more dead tiles than we had mergers. We kept having these dead tiles that caused safe companies to merge, and like it was just a very weird game of Acquire in that regard. But anyhow, I wind up with a big win here. Just a very big win. The first merger really propelled me. Yeah, I just got to buy into a lot of stuff. I also was a little kind of purposely rude to Steve Packwood because I knew Steve was also like a multi-time Acquire champion and was very good. So I was kind of purposely making his purchases hard. To the point where I probably overcorrected a bit, and Luke Luke did get some nice value once he eventually got money off of the second merger. But anyhow, this was a pretty smooth acquire win, and I made it my way to another final table off of this, which felt really nice. You do love the history of WC. You just went back and looked up your third place in Diplomacy in 2012. See, I didn't even know you played Diplomacy, Robbie. You should come join us again one of these years. It's great. It's so good. It's such a good game. We need more players. But anyhow, I do make the Acquire Finals, which is sweet. And then the Acquire Finals go pretty well for me. I run into Matt Calkins again. Matt Calkins is also like a multi-time Acquire champion. I wound up beating him in the finals in 2023. But this time around, Matt is making a lot of very sharp purchases. He is very on top of the counts. He is buying stocks in a way that really makes other people's lives tricky. And he is making sure to like consistently be on the right side of the numbers. I'm doing a lot of very good things, but the totality of the week does kind of start to show here. And in the late game, I have the opportunity to trade some shares, and I forgot to count on American, and I don't trade for enough American shares, and I let Aubrey take the majority away from me, which is a pretty huge blunder. It's by clear my biggest blunder of the week, and it's pretty sad that I make it. Luckily, I don't actually get punished for it. I do wind up in second place still, and even if I hadn't made the blunder, it turns out it's not enough money to get first place. It does turn out that if I had super been on top of the share counts, as in I knew all of the share counts of everybody, on my last turn of the game, I caused the game end condition to be met, but Acquire has a weird rule that you don't have to declare the game over. You can let your next opponent take a turn. The game only ends when the game end condition is met and somebody actually declares the game over on the end of their turn. This is a not very often used rule because typically you want to end the game and not give your opponents any tempo to do anything else to mess with you. But if I had been really on top of the share counts in Worldwide, of which I never had Worldwide, so this is where I reveal a bit of my Acquire life. I can keep pretty good track of share counts for stuff I care about, but I do not perfectly track all of the shares of everything. At a certain point, I throw certain companies out of my mind, and Worldwide was pretty early one of those companies that I'm like, these guys have bought a bunch of shares, they have clear majority in secondary, it would be insane for me to buy shares and get in this fight. They'll just buy more. Like, I threw the Worldwide counts out my head. But if I had known the Worldwide counts were 11 Matt and 4 for Jay, and that Aubrey had 10, I don't have to declare the game over. I let Aubrey have a turn. Aubrey buys the last share of Worldwide to turn it into a 9-9, to turn it into an 11-11 split, which takes money away from Matt. So if I hadn't made my earlier blunder, and I had somehow known the counts of stocks that I had thrown out my head, I do have a winning line to let Aubrey take another turn and make it 11-11. I don't blame myself for not seeing that line because, frankly, memorizing the stocks perfectly to Acquire is a step beyond what I usually want to or care to do, especially late in the week. And it so often and it so rarely matters, but that would have been a really cool tactic to flex for the win. But as is, I do not take it. Matt gets a well-deserved third Acquire plaque, and I wind up with a second place in Acquire, which is still very cool because in 7 years, I now have won Acquire twice. I've taken second, and I have like 2 second place finishes in the semifinals, one of which got me laurels one year. So like I've made the finals 3 times. I've laureled one of the other years. The other 2 years I failed in the semifinals, taking a second and a fourth, and then 1 year I just didn't make the semis at all. But it's a wildly good run at Acquire across 7 years, so I feel really good about it. You really love Diplomacy, it just takes too long. I mean, it's 4-hour heats at WBC, which is not that bad. Acquire sounds similar to 18XX Sans Trades. Might have to check it out. Acquire is really good. It's way easier than 18XX, for sure. Who says Acquire is just getting lucky with tiles? Correct, they're wrong. They're definitely wrong. Like, Matt Calkins is also on a pretty wild, like, 7 or 8 year arc. Like, across the last 7 to 8 years, Matt Calkins also has something like a first, second. So, like, he's also, like, right up there with me. And then Steve Shambino also like has a couple of wins in the last couple of years. So there are definitely some of us that are like just doing better than the field. And again, this is a little bit of what I argue for both Santa Fe Rails and Acquire. It's like very easy to say, uh, it's very easy to say like, oh, it's all just luck with the cards, or it's all luck with the tiles. Uh, and I think it's so easy to miss all of the like tactics and strategy you have available to manipulate your position so that it seems like your tiles and your like card draws in Santa Fe are better than they are. So part of becoming a good player is making your tiles good in those games, and it's I think it's a different skill that a lot of people have. So, um, but yeah, is it as fun as 18xx? Acquire is pretty different than 18xx, and that's the reason you go to WBC. Nice. I think you should check out. I think you should check out Acquire, but I don't think it's particularly like 18xx games. But there's a reason that Acquire has been around for almost 60 years now. Like Acquire is very much a very unique and different game. So you'd also say it's not like 18xx, but you're also not an expert. Yeah, I agree. I play very little 18xx, so. Anyhow, a couple pictures of the finalists. This was just a picture of the board around the middle of the game. In this game, I was heavily involved in towers and heavily involved in America. America is the company that I blunder my first place in. I do wind up in second place in Luxor, which is a big company at the end of the game. Luxor is this huge company. American was over here. Worldwide, I had no part of. Matt wins the game because he winds up having the majority in Worldwide. And he just got tons of other payouts during the game. Jay winds up with the majority in Luxor. I should have had the majority in American and the secondary in Luxor, but I wind up with secondary in both, and Aubrey winds up with the majority in American because I blundered away. So, again, my blunder almost cost me second place, but luckily I was far enough ahead that I was able to do it. But my blunder in American cost me like roughly like 4,000, roughly. I'd have to math it out exactly, but that's what I'm saying. So my blunder in American wasn't alone enough to cost me the win or second. But yeah, like I say, if I had perfect count of the stocks, I think if I make sure to not blunder away American, and that I know that I give Aubrey a turn to actually tie Matt, I think that might have given me the win, which would have been a really sick way to get the Acquire win. But alas, it wasn't to be. I wind up not being able to play the final round of Diplomacy because I make the Acquire finals, but crazily, because of the small tournament size this year and the fact that I had such a huge round, I actually take second place in Diplomacy off of that single round, which is really crazy. I get the Best Russia award, I get second place overall, I get a nice second place plaque. I be winning games in Diplomacy at WBC. By the way, Robbie, you said you want swag earlier with Acquire shirts. You should definitely go play Diplomacy. You get Diplomacy shirts if you play Diplomacy. There's tons of like pens and other swags. If you win a game of Diplomacy, or sorry, if you win a game at WBC of Diplomacy, you also win a copy of one of Renegade's games. So I picked up another copy of Acquire. Because I was one of the top 7 players, I got a free copy of the new Diplomacy, the Golden Blade card game. There's so much swag, and I'll show it in the final picture at the end. But anyhow, because of all of this, I actually get to play Faction 5 for the first time in years. For people who don't go to WBC, you cannot really understand how good Faction 5 is at the end of the week, but John Corrado does an excellent job of putting on this like partial game show, partial trivia contest, and it's just such a fun camaraderie way to end the week. It's hilarious. I wind up like getting a cider. I sit behind Robbie and I sit near some of my other friends and we have a good time. I actually do pretty well. Although it turns out like the top 6 required a score of like 84. I didn't actually record my score, but I think my score was in the mid 70s. So like this was a rare year where I also was like fairly competitive in Faction 5. I'm normally like I'm not a top Faction 5 player by any means. I'm not one of the bottom Faction 5. Like I'd claim I'm often around the like 75th percentile. So like in a room of 400, I'd often score in the like 100th place. But this year I might be close to like top 20 or top 50. But also Corrado picked categories of like cocktails, which I've recently, over the last year or two, been on a real home bartending kick. He picked like scout badges, and I worked at a Boy Scout summer camp for 6 summers. There was Marvel characters, which like I was pretty into the MCU, so that was pretty trivial to get 5 of those. And just a handful of other things that really kind of worked for me pretty well. So it was fun. It was a fun way to end the week. Round 4 was rough. I don't remember round 4. Round 5 was actually the roughest one for me. Round 5 with soccer players. Unfortunately, I did not watch the World Cup. I don't care. So like I had no real clue, and I don't remember what else round 5 was, but it was bad for me. But anyhow, you have played Agricola at WBC, but it always overlaps 18xx in the first weekend, so it's a no go. Yeah. I agree that it's tough. You won a board game from Diplomacy and it's still in shrink wrap. Nice. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I get that. Some of the games that are given away at the Diplomacy heats are not things I care about, which is why I just picked up the second copy of Acquire. I'll give it to a friend, or I'll get it to some type of board game auction store charity thing at one of the cons I go to. Um, Oh, this is just a random pick of the Acquire semifinal that I also stole off of Cliff's post. But this is me playing Steve and the others at the semifinal. Um, and then the last morning, so Sunday morning, there is one more game for me to play. It's the Agizia semifinal. I wind up at a very good table. Michael Swinson, I think, is the best Agricola player. John McSett is not the best Agricola, the best Agizia player. John McSett is very good. Patrick is very good at games. This was a really interesting game. Unfortunately, John just kind of runs away with it a bit. I think in hindsight, all of myself, Patrick, and Michael were kind of playing point greedy games where we were trying to score points during the early rounds pretty aggressively. And that gave John a lot of leeway to just stay first player through most of the game. Normally one or two players fights pretty hard to go first, including like actually starving and like purposely not scoring points early because turn order is not important. But with none of us pressing hard to go first on turn order, John sort of, got to have his cake and eat it too, as in he got to just keep staying start player, and he didn't have to actually like sacrifice points or opportunities to do so. And I think that was collectively a mistake, but it's kind of hard to say which of us individually was supposed to like go join John instead of just like continuing to do our own games of scoring points. So that was an interesting one though, and a very fun way to end the week. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't get any more laurels here. But overall, that last Saturday was excellent. I got seconds in Acquire and Diplomacy and a fifth in Concordia to really kind of boost my week. But yeah, here's another third in a semifinal. So looking at my final tally, I might have missed a couple things, but it looks like I had something like 16 or 17 heat wins this year with like 9 second places, 3 to 4 third places, and I don't think I took a single fourth place in a heat. I won my only quarterfinal game, but then yeah, semifinals this year I wound up with 3 wins and like 4 or 5 second places, 2 to 3 thirds, and 2 fourth or fifths. So historically, that was a pretty low conversion of semifinals for me, but it was a lot of second places in there that could have been first in other worlds. So that's how it goes. And then yeah, in finals I took a first, second, third. So round 4 was the Knights, Allied Cities, Poets, Singers, and the Warner Brother characters. Oh yeah, see, round 4 was pretty good for me. The Knights was really tough. The Allied Cities I got okay. I knew Yalta, and I should have known Postim. I guessed Paris instead, though, because John primed me to go for capital cities of Allied nations. But then, like, Moscow was pretty easy. As for Poets, I did solid enough slash guessing. Guessing does wonders on some of them. Singers I did surprisingly well on. Again, partly guessing, but partly like Presley and stuff. It's like, well, Ed McCartney, I'm like, I can do those. And then Warner Brother characters I did shockingly well on. I forgot Yosemite Sam, so I'm beating myself up slightly on that one, but I got a bunch of the others. Anyhow, is the current edition of Acquire good? Some have been pretty sketch. The current edition of Acquire is very good. The current edition of Acquire Renegade did an excellent job with. And if you want to, you can buy the premium version of Acquire that even comes with chips and like a draw bag. So like that's really nice. But it's anyhow, it's quite good. So anyhow, we're finally to the end. I drive home yesterday. Here I am making a 3-hour recap video because why would I do it faster? Um, we can see a bunch of my swag from the week. This is the new edition of Acquire that I won for winning my diplomacy game, for being top 7 at diplomacy. I got the new diplomacy, the Golden Blade card game, which I'm actually legit excited to try. Um, I've read about it in the designer diaries and stuff, and it sounds like they've made a sort of quasi-interesting negotiation game where you don't have to write orders, though. Just everybody kind of reveals cards each round, and you compare stuff, and you kind of build up these virtual fleets and armies in order to utilize them. So it seems like it has some cool ideas. This year at WBC, they were giving away free games to attendees. Rio Grande has been giving away a bunch of stuff, so some of my friends who fly and stuff didn't need their tickets, so I really appreciate them giving them to me. So I wound up with a copy of Wabash Cannonball, which is known as Paris Connection by Queen. This is a pretty solid, or no, this is known as Chicago Express. Sorry, Chicago Express, which is it's a pretty interesting trade game that I enjoy. And then I wound up getting a copy of both Imperial and Imperial 2030, which are really cool Matt Gertz designs, and I really like Navigador and Concordia. So I've played Imperial before and enjoy it. I got my Centurion shirt. I got my Santa Fe Rails plaque. Other swag for games. This is an Acquire upgrade kit to turn the new edition of Acquire into the premium edition with the draw bag and the tiles. I already have a premium edition of Acquire, so admittedly both of these copies are kind of superfluous, but they were cool enough to win anyhow. So Caesar shirt. You forgot Yosemite Sam too. Yeah, Mitchell was a great guess. Yeah, that was cool. Anyhow, yeah, the Centurion shirt. It was nice to re up the Centurion membership. Now I have another one that I can cut the sleeves off of. I'm mostly joking. I got my one cool Centurion shirt that I DIY'd that I was wearing around this week. Um, anyhow, yeah, my first in Santa Fe Rails, got that shield, which is sweet. Got my seconds in Acquired Diplomacy. Got my best Russia plaque. Got a third in Moon Colony, which I am very happy about this. This is a new plaque. I already do have plaques for Acquire Santa Fe and Diplomacy, but I do not have a Moon Colony Bloodbath plaque, so that was nice to get. I would have really liked to get an Arc Nova one, but alas. Then I also got to pick up my Beyond the Sun win from last year in the online event. So, yeah, a pretty nice haul from WBC. Added together, I probably have like 80, maybe 90 laurels. That again, that's a very nice year, but it's probably like top 25. It's not top 10, and that's fine. If my slightly down years are like 80 to 90 laurels, I'm in a hell of a good position. It's hard to say if this is a down year. Going 3 for 12 in my semifinals is like a pretty low historical rate. Like making it to like 5 final tables off of 12 chances would be a lot closer to like what my lifetime stats say I would have been in. And that seems roughly fair to me, to be honest. Like, there was a lot of close seconds this week in games I was like reasonable, had pretty good shots in, but that's how it goes. But again, I also made a lot of semifinals this year, whereas like previous years, I would lose a few more heats and not qualify for games I care about. I just sort of jammed a lot of the losses into the same game, like Acquire. So overall, I think this week was actually kind of close to average for me, or maybe just slightly below average. I wound up with an above average number of heat wins and semifinal chances, but then I wound up with a below average number of semifinal wins. But that's why we play the games and we show up and see how it goes. Overall, the week was hella fun. I had a great time seeing everybody, gaming with everybody. It's a hell of a convention. I would love for more people to come check it out. Um, Otherwise, yeah, in a broader sense, next year I plan to run for the BPA board of directors. I already said that kind of earlier, but again, the video is super long. If you're still here at the end and you're at all interested in like why I'm running or what I plan to do or what I care about, I will likely make other videos with my thoughts on WBC and the BPA. I'll probably write some stuff on Board Game Geek and eventually share it. So I'm sure all of that'll get out there, but I really am going to appreciate anybody who is considering voting for me. I'd love to be able to kind of step up and uh, help kind of push and shape the organization into the future. I'm really passionate about it. I'm passionate about this con. I'm passionate about the org, and I'd love to, yeah, I'd love to get more involved. And I've decided that I should stop just waiting on the sidelines for the right year to run and just start running and seeing how it goes. So I'll do that. Uh, Throughout the week, I got to talk to quite a few people and sign people up. And again, if I didn't directly get to talk to you, I'm sorry. Uh, I do feel a bit bad about how little time I give to certain friends and people at WBC, given how frenetic my gaming schedule is and how many games I'm trying to pack in. And at this point, just how many people there are that I want to talk to. I literally just don't have enough time to talk to everybody I want to, and that's a bit of a bummer. It's a great problem to have, though, and it's part of why I love the con so much, is there's just so many great people to connect with and catch up with. And that is one of the real treasures of WBC. While I do work on all of these plaques and like try to do well in games, um, that just like gamesmanship and camaraderie and just like the love of gaming is part of what really just makes the con sing. I definitely enjoy all this side competition and plaques and crap too. It's fun, but yeah, it's awesome to just spend a week with all of you at the con, and I hope to see everybody there in future years, and I hope to see a bunch of new faces too. Um, it's just the best time, and I hope to, yeah, continue to share it with more people each year. But all right, catching up on chat quick. The fun to annoying game ratio seemed pretty good. Yeah, yeah. Again, one of the things that I struggled with in like 2022 in particular was I let myself get really down and I beat up myself a bit, and I honestly kind of went on tilt, and I wasn't having fun anymore. So I'm relatively proud, like as minor as it is, I am legit relatively proud of the fact that like I maintained like a really good, cheerful attitude about losing my Agricola games and not making the Agricola semis. And I maintained a pretty cheerful attitude throughout the week. At the end of the Arc Nova semifinal, when I went 0 for 4 in that morning semifinals, I was definitely down a little. I was not horrifically down. I wasn't like mega sad or going on tilt, but I was definitely bummed at that point in the week. But um yeah, overall I'm actually pretty happy with how I handled my emotions around winning and losing. And not like giving it, like not setting like absurd expectations for myself or expecting to win like everything, because that's absurd. And like frankly, I wasn't actually doing that much losing. Again, I had a wildly good week to make so many semis and win so many heats, and like I still had really good results at the end. Um, and yeah, as for the games themselves, I consistently had fun opponents, fun times. They were interesting games. The one Agricola game was really degenerate, and the people are nice enough, and we played through it with like, but I kind of did not enjoy that game because it was just so dumb. It's pretty dumb to play an Agricola game where like you just don't actually care about the board or wood or action. Like when there's no tightness on food or wood or just anything, the game's not actually good. Uh, if Agricola was like that, even like 2% of the time, I don't think, like, maybe 2% is too low, but anyhow, that game was completely degenerate and actually not very enjoyable. But outside of that, yeah, the games throughout the week were excellent. So, um, you played exactly 0 games with me this week. Wow, that's crazy, actually. Do I still want you to upload the phone stream of Agricola from last year? Oh, I didn't realize it was the phone stream. Was that all we had actually, was the phone doing it? I guess that is, right? We didn't have the overhead. I still do want it, yeah. I would like to do a recap video of the 2025 Agricola finals, and I definitely want to get my hands on some of the video records of this year. One of the things I was a little bit bummed about this year, and like that includes both Concordia and Acquire, or not Acquire and Arc Nova, not making the Concordia finals or the Arc Nova finals, knowing that they were going to get recorded is definitely a bummer. I wanted to be in on some of the video recordings. Uh, I want to even without being in them though, I still would like to commentate some of them. I love talking about games. I would be happy to commentate some of those. So I hope the WBC gives me the opportunity to do some commentary on some of those games, because I would really love to do that. But I would have really, really loved to have been in a few of them too. But alas. Um, what are the team stats looking like? Yeah, Team Sweat Hogs is probably winning the team tournament. That's Lumen's team. Lumen took second in Wingspan. Chad did win Stone Age. AJ put up points in Through the Ages, and Carl put up points in Splendor Duel. So to my knowledge, Sweat Hogs has won the team tournament. Uh, uh, there is a fairly close second place, which is oh, the guy who won Beyond the Sun, C name, Kurt. Kurt won Beyond the Sun, and his teammate won one of their games, but I don't think they put up other points, so they're gonna just be a little behind. The only other teams that might have a shot is if like 3 Wargamers all won their game on the same team. But I've not reviewed the winners board to see if any of the like Wargamer teams actually beat Team Sweat Hogs. But that's pretty much the only way. I want to be famous. I don't really. It would be such minor fame to be on those videos. I just. I think it would be fun. I think it's fun and worthwhile for our organization to continue to celebrate our games and some of the like personalities that we have and the gamers we have and the quality of the games we have. And I would like to be part of that for the future. Like, I would like to be at final tables that are getting recorded and put out there. Which, by the way, there is a Santa Fe Rails final I was in that did get video recorded and put out there, but nobody did commentary on it. I might finally actually do that. The tough part is that was the first year I made the Santa Fe finals, and that was back when I was playing like game number 5 of Santa Fe Rails. So like looking back, I'm sure I'm gonna have criticism of my play. Um, but I'm in a much better spot to actually be able to like do commentary on Santa Fe Rails because like I actually feel that I have figured out a lot of things about Santa Fe Rails, whereas previously I was like I don't know what I was going to commentate because I didn't actually feel like particularly good at the game. But anyhow, you would commentate Arc with me. That could be fun. Yeah, unlucky. Chad beat Lumen and Wingspan. Yeah, I know. Did we get top 10? Probably not, right? We probably are top 10 still, actually, because Andrew wins such a large event, and you still put up, like, Arc Nova is also a pretty large event, so your 4th place is still pretty solid points. But yeah, the fact that I put up nothing and Eric put up nothing means that we only have like 10, we have like 11 or 12 points, but most years that is still enough to, like, make the cutoff for top 10 teams. So I think Team Terraformers is going to keep their streak of top 10 teams alive, but we've the last 3 years we had gone first, third, second. We're definitely not top 3. We're definitely hanging around that like 8, 9, 10, or even 11 through like 13 range, but still pretty solid. You definitely tried your best and you did good. You did great for us. You made your final table. Like Eric took second place in his semifinal. He was pretty close to making the finals. I just like totally whiffed Agricola / I should have just picked Santa Fe Rails. I mean, it's a little bit hindsight, but honestly, it probably is a little bit foresight. Like, I just wasn't really trusting myself in Santa Fe Rails, but I think at this point I should. Like, my win rate in Santa Fe is like very high now. And like as much as I do want to say the game still has card luck, because clearly it does, and someday I will be screwed by card luck like really hard, clearly there is a lot of skill if I've not lost a heat or semifinal in 4 years of a game. So yeah. Um However, I also was dedicated to our team name. I have to pick a game with Terra or farming in it, terraforming or farming, and Santa Fe has neither. But I probably could give up the stupid little team name connection and just go with my whatever I want to. But yeah. So that's where the team tournament's at. That's where all that stuff's at. I've made this recap video wildly long, which is not shocking given that it's me, but also I really should stop talking because my voice is already a bit sore from talking so much from the week ahead, the last week, and I'm already kind of like tired and worn down, and I've been doing way too much here. Is really what I'm saying. But I really appreciate hanging out and chatting with a bunch of you. I cannot wait to get back to WBC and spend time with everybody. I hope a lot of people make their way there. If any of you watching this ever have any questions with WBC, please reach out. I love this con. I love the org, and I can't wait to do it all again and see how it goes. Yeah, as for other like streaming aspects, I probably am taking a slight step back from streaming as much as I was prior to WBC. I'm not totally sure what my current gaming goal is, and I'll kind of figure some of that out going forward. But I would like to still stream occasionally instead of being like almost never streaming. So I'm sure you'll see me around a bit doing some games, but it'll be a little sporadic. Again, is my expectation. But yeah, I really appreciate all the support. Appreciate people hanging out watching. Hope people enjoy this too once it gets out on YouTube. And yeah, I will hopefully see a bunch of people at WBC in the future. It's just the best con. Until then, later everybody. Bye.